Chapter 2774. You're right. I was just too happy that I forgot myself. Only then did Patriarch Kwangyo recall how Patriarch Kwangyo had died. Even if the two of them were Heaven's Daos, Patriarch Kwangyo was still a Heaven's Daos, and he might not be a match for him. All right, we should go out too. Everyone is waiting for us at the door. Zhong Pingliang said. All right, Big Brother Kwanglong. Kwangyo Master nodded, completely acknowledging Zhong Pingliang's identity. Call me Liang Bro from now onwards. I'm more used to this name. Zhong Pingliang had more autonomy. After all, Kwanglong Master's soul was too weak, and he was a latecomer, naturally not as strong as Zhong Pingliang's original soul. After the fusion, Zhong Pingliang's personality was the dominant one. All right, then I'll call you Liang Bro. Kwangyo Master didn't mind, as long as his big brother was back. It didn't matter. In the next few days, Zhong Pingliang began to train again. His body was too weak, and other than the foundation building pill, the everyday sect contacted the Sky Elixir sect and ordered a bone cleansing pill. Zhong Pingliang also began to soak his body in the medicinal liquid every day, which meant that all of the everyday sect's resources were used on Zhong Pingliang. Although Kwanglong Master's body had changed, he was still Kwanglong Master, the boss of the everyday sect. Now, the two people with the most authority in the sect were his disciple, and the other was his junior. Naturally, no one would object to him taking all the resources for himself. Xiaofu, on the other hand, benefited quite a bit from following Pinliang. Pinliang's body had been soaked in the medicinal liquid, and although the effects weren't as strong as before, bathing Xiaofu in it still improved his body by leaps and bounds. He couldn't reach a very high level, but if he had treasures, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a Sky Class Master. It was just that his fighting ability would be a little weaker, that's all. Mrs. Tang told Tang Yun and Tang Juqing about Tang Yuqi's situation. Tang Juqing didn't have any opinions, so they listened to Tang Yun. After all, they were in the Snow Valley, and Tang Yun was the one making the decisions. Tang Yun thought about it and made her decision. Tang Yuqi was her cousin. She had to meet him. But he could not let him come to the Snow Valley, and he could not tell him anything about the Snow Valley, so he could only find an excuse. Since his parents had nothing to do, he could ask them to go back to East Ocean City. If he met Tang Yuqi, there wouldn't be any problems. If Tang Yun didn't show up, he wouldn't have any interaction with Lin. He could solve this problem as well. It was killing two birds with one stone. That night, Meng Yao finally received a call from Mrs. Tang. Meng Yao thanked her first for helping Lin Yi with his trip to Snowy Valley. If it weren't for Mrs. Tang, Lin Yi's trip to the Snowy Valley wouldn't have gone so smoothly, but he certainly wouldn't have reaped so many rewards. Annie, about Tang Yuqi, are there any results? Lingshan was in a rush, and Meng Yao wanted a result as soon as possible. About Tang Yuqi, Yun Yun said that her dad and I will go back after a while to reunite with him, but Yun Yun won't be able to come back. Mrs. Tang said, tell Tang Yuqi that our family is working in another place, but it's a bit of a secret, so we can't reveal it, but we'll go back to see him in a few days. That's great. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. This was what she was worried about the most right now. Tang Yuqi went to Lingshan every day to ask for the latest news, and Lingshan couldn't handle it anymore. If she didn't get any news from Tang Yun, it would be troublesome for her. After all, Tang Yuqi always asked Lingshan out for a meal, and even if Lingshan rejected it, she couldn't reject it every day. Lingshan was also waiting for this result. The two didn't talk too much. Although Tang Yun was a tyrant in Snowy Valley, she still had to go to a designated place to make calls. She didn't have a satellite phone, and there were other disciples nearby, so she couldn't say too much. The first thing Meng Yao did after hanging up was call Lingshan, telling her the good news in detail. Lingshan was very excited as well and called Tang Yuqi that very night. Tang Yuqi was already resting in the hotel when he received Lingshan's call. He was happy and excited. She's finally interested in me. Is she going to ask me out? Tang Yuqi mumbled to himself as he picked up the phone. His goal in coming to Donghai was to find Tang Juqing's family, but now that he met Lingshan, he felt that this trip to Donghai wasn't a waste. He hadn't found his family yet, but he had found his future partner. During this period of time, Tang Yuqi's impression of Lingshan was quite good. First of all, she was beautiful and had a good body. This was his first impression, and Lingshan and he were in the same line of work. Both of them were investigating cases, so they had a lot in common. Of course, the most important thing was that Lingshan was also a practitioner, and an Earth class at that. Her strength was similar to Tang Yuqi's, so Tang Yuqi liked her even more. However, Tang Yuqi wasn't in a rush to confess. Instead, he used the matter of finding his second uncle, Tang Juqing, to interact with Lingshan often, asking her out for a meal to improve their relationship. In fact, if Lingshan let go of her guard against Tang Yuqi, her impression of him was quite good. At least the two could become good friends. They were both in the same line of work, and they were both practitioners, so they had a lot to talk about. Lingshan, on the other hand, would often intentionally bring the topic of the case to avoid the topic of Tang Juqing's family. Tang Yuqi was a detective, after all. Lingshan was skillful in changing the topic, but she couldn't hide it from Tang Yuqi. Tang Yuqi knew, but he didn't point it out. He was happy to let Lingshan's topic continue. Today was the first time Lingshan took the initiative to call him this late, and it made Tang Yuqi very excited. He had asked her out for a meal before, but she had a meeting and rejected him. Tang Yuqi didn't think that Lingshan would take the initiative to contact him after the meeting. Did this mean that the relationship between the two of them could be a step closer? Lingshan, you finished your meeting? Tang Yuqi asked with a smile. Yeah, I just finished. I have something to talk to you about, Lingshan said. Chapter 2775. We can talk on the phone, too. Lingshan wanted to make it short. Let's talk when we meet. Tang Yuqi hung up. Helpless, Lingshan could only wait at the entrance of the police station. Captain Song, waiting for your boyfriend again? Lingshan stood in front of the police station, and her colleagues couldn't help but ask jokingly. Tang Yuqi had been coming to see Lingshan a lot lately, and everyone thought that he was Lingshan's boyfriend or potential suitor. After all, Lingshan wouldn't go out with Tang Yuqi so often if she didn't have something in mind. This wasn't Songshan, and not many people knew about Lin Yi. Lingshan couldn't explain why Tang Yuqi was here either. She could only smile bitterly. Tang Yuqi ran over. He was a practitioner, and his stamina was good. He said apologetically when he saw Lingshan coming out, Lingshan, you're out already? I'm sorry, there were a lot of people in the elevator. It's nothing, let's talk on the way. Lingshan couldn't talk about Tang Juqing's family in front of the police station. Sure, let's go for a walk and get some supper. Tang Yuqi nodded. After walking for a while and making sure there was no one around, Lingshan said, I've helped you find out about Tang Juqing's family. Ah, what? Tang Yuqi paused. He didn't have much hope at first, and the reason he asked Lingshan out was purely to ask her out. As for Tang Juqing, from Lingshan's attitude, he felt that there was more to it than met the eye. He didn't think that Lingshan would give him an answer like this today. Their family is out of town, but due to some special circumstances, I'm not sure where they are exactly. I don't know where they are exactly, they keep it a secret, but I've contacted them through other people. Your second uncle and aunt might come back to Donghai soon, and I can arrange for you guys to meet then. Lingshan said, Ah, really? That's great. When will they come back? Tang Yuqi was very happy. Finding Tang Juqing's family was a pleasant surprise. That'll take a while, Lingshan said. She wasn't sure either, since Mrs. Tang couldn't leave right away after returning from Snowy Valley. She still had some things to do, but she couldn't tell when exactly. But it'll definitely be soon. Is that so? Thank you very much. Tang Yuqi thought about it and said, I've been in East Ocean City for a long time, and I've been doing nothing. This isn't like me. Lingshan, can you help me and let me work at the police station? Ugh, you're at the police station? Lingshan paused. He didn't expect Tang Yuqi to suddenly make such a request. Yes, but don't worry, I won't ask for a sky-high price. I'll just be a temporary worker. You can pay me whatever you want to hire temporary workers. Tang Yuqi said. Ah, you're a famous detective. The price of a temp. Lingshan was a little speechless, but this was something she could decide for herself. The assistant police and drivers in the criminal investigation unit were all recruited. It wouldn't be a problem if Tang Yuqi was just a temporary worker. Ha, I don't really need money. I earned quite a bit when I was overseas, and I'm just bored. I need something to do. Tang Yuqi said, don't you have a lot of cases on your side? I can help you solve them. I don't even have to pay you. All right then. If that's the case, you can come to work tomorrow. Lingshan thought about it and agreed. Tang Juqing's problem was solved, and she didn't need to hide from Tang Yuqi anymore. Tang Yuqi, on the other hand, was a famous overseas detective. He could be an expert in solving cases and help the team. It wouldn't cost much, and it would increase efficiency. Why not? Haha, then I'll be working for you from now onwards. You have to take care of me. Tang Yuqi smiled. Today, I'll treat my beautiful boss to supper and build a relationship. Let's forget about the midnight snack. It's late already? Lingshan looked at the time on her watch. It's not too late. Not far ahead is the night market stall. Just take it as a thank you for helping me find my second uncle, Tang Yuqi said as he pointed to a place not far away. All right then. Lingshan nodded after some thought. Since Tang Yuqi wasn't going to ask her about Tang Juqing like before, she didn't need to be on guard against him anymore. Eating with him was a lot more relaxing now. Xinyan, on the other hand, had been able to go to school as usual these past couple of days. There didn't seem to be any problems, but the jade pendant was still bothering Lin Yi. The herb couldn't solve the root of the problem, and it could only be used for a short period of time. As for the jade, Lin Yi couldn't think of a way to deal with it. He even thought of using the art of dragon mastery to replenish the jade's energy, but alas, the jade wasn't a practitioner, and it didn't know any arts. It wasn't a spirit beast either, and it couldn't absorb energy passively. Lin Yi didn't know what to do. Lin Yi had all the energy in his body, but he couldn't transfer it to the jade. The jade situation reminded Lin Yi of the energy stone in Sun Jingyi's hand. He wondered if that stone would be useful to her. Last time, Sun Jingyi had been found by Little 11, and there wasn't much energy left in the stone. Sun Jingyi didn't use it to train, but put it aside for now. Lin Yi went to get the stone and started studying it. Sun Jingyi's stone was brighter than the one Yu Dake gave him last time, but it was already very dim. This meant that the stone and the jade were similar. The more energy there was, the brighter the stone's color would be. After the energy inside was used up, the color would become dimmer and dimmer until it couldn't be used anymore. Chapter 2776. Lin Yi wanted to use the art of dragon mastery to transfer energy to Wang Xinyan, but Wang Xinyan wasn't a spiritual beast. She didn't have an incantation, so she couldn't guide Lin Yi's universal qi to complete the conversion. Wang Xinyan's body was special beyond the 5 elements. Lin Yi couldn't even choose an incantation for her because he didn't know Wang Xinyan's element, and Lin Yi didn't know what incantation she should be practicing. After all these failed attempts, Lin Yi gave Sun Jingyi's white energy stone to Wang Xinyan, telling her to put it in her chest pocket to test the effect. A week later, the energy stone in Wang Xinyan's chest changed slightly. It was a very subtle change, but it didn't escape Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi had carefully memorized the stone's condition, and on the second day, the light of the stone dimmed a little. It was very faint, but it meant that Wang Xinyan's jade could be replaced with an energy stone. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief after understanding this. He was pleasantly surprised. The jade thing that had been bothering Lin Yi for a long time had been solved. The jade wasn't the only solution, and energy stones could be used as an alternative. According to Udake, there should be a lot of such energy stones on his map, but Udake had gone there once and hadn't found them. Lin planned to go to the Hakanamata Desert when he had time to look for energy stones. Lin believed that with Skybolt Pig's help, it wouldn't be too difficult to find the stones. Wang Xinyan's matter was settled, and Lin could finally relax. At this time, the day of the Sky Elixir School's test was just around the corner. Lin left the net at home and only wore the mid-level golden cicada underwear. Of course, Lin wanted to leave the bright golden cicada underwear for Meng Yao and the others to protect themselves, but the prophet said that it might be useful for protection, so Lin put it on. After telling Wu Qintian, Pai Jishan, Han Xiaopa, and Zhuang Niaoqiang that they would take turns to protect the girls, Lin then drove to the hidden house Zhao. He was going to pick up Zhao Qikuan and head to the Sky Elixir School's test. Zhao Qibing had been quiet for a while now, staying in the hidden house Zhao. He didn't even dare to go out. What happened to Yuning last time scared him, although the hidden house didn't do anything to him after that. He was afraid that the hidden house would do something behind his back. On the surface, Zhao Qibing was the young master of the hidden house Zhao, and the hidden house might not have a conflict with the hidden house Zhao because of this, but in reality, the relationship between the hidden house and the hidden house Zhao had hit rock bottom. After this incident, the two houses never contacted each other again. In the end, this matter was because of the hidden house Yushan, and the hidden house couldn't find fault with the hidden house Zhao, so they could only let it go. There wasn't a single disciple in the hidden Zhao house who didn't recognize Lin Yi. During the hidden house summit, Lin Yi had made a name for himself with one battle. So when Lin Yi's car stopped at the entrance of the hidden Zhao house's manor, the patrolling disciples of the hidden Zhao house acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They hurriedly told Elder Mian about Lin Yi's arrival, and through Elder Mian, they reported it to Elder Zhao. What? Lin Yi is here? Elder Zhao froze. Lin Yi came without any warning, and he didn't even contact him beforehand. He came so suddenly, and it made Elder Zhao's heart skip a beat. What is he doing here? I'm not sure. The patrolling disciples didn't ask and just came to report. Elder Mian said carefully, it can't be that he's here because of the hidden house Yuning, right? Elder Zhao was very worried. He had heard that Lin Yi could instantly kill Sky class masters, and right now he was filled with fear for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi wanted to kill him, it would only take one move. Old master, could that Lin Yi be here to pick up Zhao Qikuan? They're going to the Sky Elixir Sex test together? Uncle Zhu interrupted. Naturally, Elder Zhu's second knew why Lin Yi was here. He was the one who contacted Lin Yi, telling Lin Yi that House Zhao was preparing to send Zhao Qikuan to the Sky Elixir Sect for the test, so Lin Yi was definitely here to look for him. As for trouble, Lin Yi would definitely need Uncle Zhu as his spy, and since Lin Yi didn't say anything, then it definitely wasn't him. So, Uncle Zhu didn't mind being a prophet once in a while to increase his influence in the hidden house Zhao. Lil Zhu, you're right, Lin Yi might really be here for Zhao Qikuan. After hearing Uncle Zhu's words, Elder Zhao suddenly understood. He had been blinded by the situation, but now that he thought about it, Lin Yi would have come a long time ago if he wanted to. Why wait until now? Lin Yi could instantly kill Sky class masters, and it wasn't something that could be done in the past few days. With that thought, Elder Zhao quickly said, Elder Mian, Lil Zhu, you two go receive Lin Yi at the door. Susu has invited him in for a chat. Yes, head of the house. Elder Mian and Uncle Zhu replied. In the living room of the hidden house Zhao, Lin Yi was led by Elder Mian and Uncle Zhu to Elder Zhao. Lin Yi didn't even bother to be polite and just sat on the sofa, making Elder Zhao, who was about to shake his hand, feel very awkward. Well, young hero Lin, may I know what brings you here today? Elder Zhao was an experienced man. After all, he knew when to submit and when to not. Although Lin Yi didn't give him any face, he didn't dare get angry. He even felt that Lin Yi was purposely trying to provoke him. As long as he got angry, Lin Yi would have an excuse to make a move, and it would become his provocation, and the other hidden houses wouldn't be able to say anything. So the more it was like this, the calmer Elder Zhao felt. Where's Zhao Qikuan? I'm taking him to the Sky Elixir test. Call him out. Lin Yi waved his hand and said faintly, ignoring Elder Zhao's politeness, ugh, okay. Elder Zhao paused, thinking that Lin Yi really was here for Zhao Qikuan. But that made things easier, as long as he wasn't here for trouble. Elder Zhao was most afraid that Lin Yi would come to cause trouble, and Lin Yi was obviously here for Zhao Qikuan. He said to Uncle Zhu, Lil Zhu, go call Qikuan here. The Sky Elixir test has Master Lin's protection. It shouldn't be a problem. Yes, head of the house. Uncle Zhu quickly replied. He didn't even look at Lin Yi when he came, and normal people wouldn't be able to tell that he had anything to do with Lin Yi. Chapter 2777. Ugh, this Guangyin is still young and strong. I haven't thought about choosing another head yet. Old Zhao was shocked and said quickly, Oh, then why did I hear that Zhao Qibing is the young head of your hidden house? Lin Yi frowned and asked faintly, maybe this kid just came back to the hidden house and his confidence is inflated? Old Zhao said carefully, Is that so? Lin Yi asked back, Where's Zhao Qibing? Why isn't he out? Ugh, that Zhao Qibing went to visit his relatives. He's not home, Old Zhao said quickly. I see. Forget it then. I wanted to help him break his leg, but since he's not here, forget it, Lin Yi said regretfully. Old Zhao paused, but he knew that Lin Yi was probably bullshitting. He had no intention of helping Zhao Qibing break his leg at all. He was just making him feel bad, but Old Zhao still said, It's fine. Since it's not possible this time, I'll let Zhao Qibing come to you personally to break his leg. There's no rush. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If I don't break it this time, I might not want to break it next time. We'll see, Lin Yi said. Old Zhao was speechless, thinking that Lin Yi was messing with him, but he didn't dare to argue. Then he can only blame it on Qibing's bad luck. Let him try his luck. Maybe he'll be in a good mood and break his leg again. Old Zhao didn't hide the fact that Qibing had a broken leg. From his point of view, Lin Yi was related to Yu Ning from House Yu, so it was obvious that he knew about Qibing's 1,000-legged training. This kind of broken leg was something that everyone had a tacit understanding about. Ha ha, Lin Yi smiled. Since Zhao Qibing is hiding, forget it then. Old Zhao was very embarrassed, but when he turned around, he saw Uncle Zhu bringing Zhao Qikuan in. He was overjoyed. Qikuan, young Master Lin purposely came to our hidden house to bring you to the Sky Elixir Sex test. You have to listen to him along the way. All right. Qikuan looked at Old Zhao, his reply a little coldly. He'd been treated coldly by the hidden Zhaos for a long time. And since that was the case, there was no need for him to feign civility with them. He was just a little curious as to why his grandpa was so respectful to Lin Yi, even calling him Master Lin. Before the Hidden House Summit, Lin Yi seemed to have a huge grow with the Hidden House, and they were trying to kill Lin Yi. But now it seemed like the situation had changed. Lin Yi dared to come to the Hidden House alone, and his grandfather's attitude was completely different from before. What did this mean? Boss, thank you for thinking of me. Zhao Qikuan was very touched that Lin Yi came to the Sky Elixir sect alone. He felt that Lin Yi was even more loyal than the people of House Xiao. We came back together from the Ice Palace test. So naturally, we have to come back together for the Sky Elixir test. Lin Yi stood up and patted Zhao Qikuan's shoulder. Let's go. It seems like old Zhao is quite afraid of me here. I won't stay here to scare people anymore. Ugh. Old Zhao laughed dryly. Of course not. Young Master Lin, I can't wait to welcome you. Why would I be afraid? Oh, then aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Lin Yi's face turned solemn as he asked faintly. Qikuan was startled as well. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask something like this. Wasn't he trying to turn on his grandpa? But this was the hidden house. If they fought, would he and Lin Yi be a match for them? But old Zhao's answer made Zhao Qiqun speechless. Old Zhao's face froze, stunned as he looked at Lin Yi. Young Master Lin, you must be joking. We have no grudges. Why would you want to kill me? No grudges? Lin Yi smiled and ignored him, pulling Qiqun with him as they walked out of the Zhao's guest room. Old Zhao looked at Lin Yi and Zhao Qiqun's backs, finally letting out a sigh of relief. He sat on the sofa, clutching his heart. Head, are you all right? Elder Mian was sweating as well. I'm fine. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would be this strong now? The pressure he gave me just now was too much. We don't know if Zhao Qiqun's going with him will be a blessing or a curse. Old Zhao said worriedly. Well, Head, maybe we should change our strategy? To Qiqun. Elder Mian was an elder Bai. He didn't have any favoritism for Zhao Qibing, nor did he have any dislike for Zhao Qiqun. As far as he was concerned, whoever was more useful to the hidden house would be the one to take over. It was a very normal thing. But this isn't fair to elite soldier. Old Zhao was a bit troubled. He didn't feel this much pressure when facing Lin Yi in the past, but after seeing him today, old Zhao really couldn't take it. But it's obvious that Lin Yi doesn't like Zhao Qibing and is closer to Zhao Qiqun. Elder Mian said carefully, Man, I'll think about it. Old Zhao waved his hand helplessly. Lin Yi and Zhao Qiqun left the hidden house together, and Zhao Qiqun was very curious about what had happened today. He got in Lin Yi's car and couldn't help but ask, Boss, why does my grandpa look like he's scared of you? I can insta-kill him. Of course he'd be scared. Lin Yi smiled. You probably don't have any other information channels these days, so you don't know what's going on outside. Yeah, boss, you can insta-kill my grandpa? My grandpa is a sky class early phase. Could it be that your strength now? Zhao Qiqun's eyes went wide, shocked. You're a sky class too? No, I'm just earth class late phase. Lin Yi shook his head. But I have the strength to insta-kill sky class, pretty much anyone below sky class mid-phase. Fuck, boss, you're that strong? Doesn't that mean you're the strongest under sky class? Zhao Qiqun was surprised. No wonder my grandpa was so scared. No wonder they didn't make things difficult for me recently. So that's the reason. Chapter 2778. I'm not the first. Let's get going. Lin Yi started the car and followed the directions on the invitation. Similar to the training in the Ice Palace, Lin Yi drove through a couple of cities. There were very few people around. At most, he could see a few villages, and as he went further, he couldn't even see a village anymore. But the weather here wasn't too bad, unlike the Ice Palace where it was snowing and hard to drive. The roads here were all dirt roads, but because of the dry weather, it didn't affect the speed at all. After another afternoon, Lin Yi's car finally arrived at the location of the invitation. The Sky Elixir Inn. Yes, at the foot of this desolate mountain, a luxurious inn suddenly appeared. This was the registration place for the trial takers of the Heavenly Elixir School, which was specially prepared for trial takers. The difference between this place and the Ice Palace was that there were no normal people here, and the inn was isolated. Perhaps it was because of the geographical location of the Sky Elixir sect that there weren't any villages here. Or perhaps it was because the Sky Elixir sect didn't like having normal people around. Lin Yi parked the car in the parking lot and got out with Qiqun. There were a couple of cars parked here. As well, they didn't know if they belonged to the other participants or the Sky Elixir sect itself. You too. This isn't a normal inn. If you don't have an invitation, please go back. As soon as the two of them entered the lobby of the inn, a man in plain clothes stopped them and spoke politely. We're here for the test, Lin Yi said faintly. How can freelancers have an invitation? Oh, I see. The man didn't get angry, only nodding to Lin Yi. If that's the case, please show us your strength, and I'll help you register. Lin Yi and Qiqun channeled their arts and showed their strength. Lin Yi was Earth class late phase, and Qiqun was only Mystic mid phase peak. But the rules were simple this time. As long as one was mystic and above, they could participate. There was no limit. And so the man nodded in satisfaction. Since you two are practitioners, there's no need to check the invitation. Please show me your IDs, and I'll get you a room card. Lin Yi and Chi-Kwun handed their IDs over. Lin Yi saw Chi-Kwun channeling his arts, and he suddenly remembered Chi-Kwun's strength. He was only a mystic mid-phase peak, and that was way too weak. He was also one of the few who didn't get anything out of it. Even when he didn't get anything out of it, he was still so loyal to Lin Yi, helping Lin Yi with information. It was truly rare. But when Lin Yi first met him, he was the same as him, a mystic mid-phase peak. He couldn't help Chi-Kwun increase his strength. And after he was locked up, Lin Yi didn't have the chance to help him even after he became an Earth class. Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. It was only now that Lin Yi felt the need to help Chi-Kwun. After registering their IDs, Lin Yi and Chi-Kwun took the room card and were about to go upstairs when they heard footsteps and voices. It seemed like the other practitioners had arrived before them. Did you hear? The an everyday sect sent someone. And on the way, the disciples of the Holy Fist Palace got into a fight with him, but they didn't get anything out of it. I heard that 2 people came, and one of them went back before the test. One of them said, "Ah, no way. Is this for real? That strong? It really is the first demon sect." The other person said in shock, "Isn't that Zhang Naipeo? But I heard that he wasn't that strong." Back then, during the Ice Palace's trial, he was beaten into a cripple. "Shoo, walls have ears. Don't let Zhang Naipeo hear about it." The first person said, panicking, "Let's not talk about whether the Ice Palace test is real or not. Even if it is, we losers don't understand the matters of the strong." "Damn, you're a Sky class early phase." The other person paused, not expecting his friend to be so cowardly. "That Zhang Naipeo, I heard that he's only an Earth class late phase peak. There's still a huge gap between you and him." "That's true, but Zhang Naipeo's arts are really weird, and so are his techniques. He's known as the #1 under Sky class mid-phase, and I heard that he can even meet Sky class mid-phase masters without a problem. I'm only Sky class early phase." The person smiled nonchalantly, not thinking that this was anything to be ashamed of. "All right, he's strong, but I don't know if the Feng Nitian from the ancient house Feng, who was said to be able to compete with Zhang Naipeo in the Ice Palace test, will these 2 fight again?" The other person said expectantly, "Right, bro. Isn't your surname Feng too? Do you know the ancient house Feng?" Let's not talk about this." The first person shook his head and was about to say something when he suddenly said, "Someone's here." This was a good reason for him to end the conversation. In actuality, Lin Yi heard their conversation. The person who came downstairs was a Sky class early phase, but it was obvious that he didn't have much experience and didn't know how to defend himself. It'd be too late if Zhang Naipeo heard him, but Lin Yi naturally wasn't interested in gossiping with Naipeo. He was just curious. What kind of weird martial arts did this Naipeo learn to become the #1 below Sky class mid-phase? Didn't that mean he was the same as him? Lin Yi couldn't help but shake his head. It seemed like this Zhang Naipeo wasn't going to just go away. Pin Liang hadn't left for long, and Zhang Naipeo was already here. Chi-Kwun's face changed as he looked at Lin Yi worriedly. He didn't have any conflict with Naipeo, and he was the one who betrayed Feng Nitian. He wasn't worried about Naipeo's revenge, but Lin Yi had crippled Naipeo last time. Would he just let it go? Chapter 2779. But since his father said so, he couldn't refute it anymore. He could only say, "I'm just angry that third brother didn't tell me what he was doing and made decisions in private. It's fine to participate in the trial this time, but what if he deliberately sent Shursan to his death? Impossible. Am I that kind of person? How could I do such an immoral thing?" Feng Tianhu snorted. "No matter what, I'm still a member of the Feng family. I can't kill each other. It's hard to say, right?" Feng Tianlin sneered. and said indifferently, "You know what you've done? Whatever you say, I'm going to see against the heavens." Feng Tianhu said as he stood up and left. Feng Tianlin was so angry that he pointed at his back and couldn't say anything for a long time. He was also deeply helpless. The family was scheming against each other, and they couldn't relax for even a moment. Otherwise, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. This time, Feng Shisan's matter was a wake-up call, reminding him to be more careful of his younger brother in the future. "Father, you see..." Feng Tianlin looked at grandfather Feng helplessly. "Tianlin, you have to understand that if there's less competition in a family, then it's not good for the family's development." Grandfather Feng sighed and said, "I'm old. I have to think about the future of the Feng family. Shisan is talented in cultivation, not worse than against the heavens, but he's too kind and doesn't have any schemes. He's not suited to be a family head. It would be fine if the Feng family was strong, but the current Feng family isn't particularly strong in the ancient era. I haven't reached the peak late stage yet, and our Feng family, including Shisan, who just broke through, only has 5 heaven rank experts. It seems that 5 heaven rank experts are very strong, but we don't have a foundation. If an ancient sect really wants to clash with us, then we really won't be able to resist." Feng Tianlin was silent as well. Indeed, the reason why he was able to rise to the top was because of a marriage alliance. He had relied on nepotism to rise to the top, and his means were obviously not strong. Otherwise, he would have been able to suppress Feng Tianhu for so many years. And he also knew that if the Feng family had a strong backing, then it wouldn't be a problem, just like his relationship with his wife. But these years, his relationship with his wife had gradually declined, and it wasn't as glorious as it used to be. Therefore, the Fengs began to decline rapidly. But if Against the Heavens recovers, then the poem, Feng Tianlin asked hesitantly. "In fact, I acquiesced in this trial. Otherwise, do you really think that Sky Tiger could deceive everyone? In this Feng family, I still have the final say." Old Master Feng laughed and said, "Shiren went to participate in the trial to see if he can make some powerful friends. The second is to let him see the world. Otherwise, with his personality, he will be at a disadvantage." "I see." Feng Tianlin didn't expect his father to allow this. He was surprised, but he was still worried. But the Heavenly Elixir Sect's trial, most of the people who went in the past never came back. I'm afraid that the poem, he still has to go out and gain experience. If he can't even get through such a small storm, then he's not qualified to be the family head. Old Master Feng waved his hand and said, "All right, I've made up my mind. There's no need to say anything more." "Yes, Father." Feng Tianlin nodded. Since his father said so, he naturally wouldn't say anything else. He could only pray for Feng Shiren to come back safe and sound. Feng Tianhu didn't stop. As soon as he returned to his room, a noble lady, Feng Tianlin's wife, barged into his room and scolded, "Feng Tianhu, you bastard! Didn't we work together to deal with Su Shihan? Why did you do this to my son behind my back?" "Sister-in-law, you're wrong. Shiren is a Sky class master now. His strength is the same as mine. He's the future pillar of our Feng family. If I don't go now, when will I? If he doesn't go through the trial, how can he be the family head?" Feng Tianhu quickly shook his head and said, "Think about it. If something happens to Shirt, and what good will it do to me? I'm looking forward to him coming back victorious and getting a great recovery pill for Against the Heavens. If something happens to him, then not only will there be no chance of getting the pill, but our Feng family will also have no descendants. Even if I'm stupid, I wouldn't do such a stupid thing. If Shiren comes back safe and sound, then wouldn't Against the Heavens be healed? Would he continue fighting with Shiren for the position?" The lady humphed coldly. "I say, sister-in-law, with you here, even if Shiren comes back, he'll still be the heir of the young master. What advantage does Against have? Even if he recovers, I won't let him fight for anything after this. Training in peace is the most important thing. Feng Tianhu said. Humph, I'll believe you for now. You wouldn't dare lie to me anyway. The lady nodded, believing Feng Tianhu. In the Inn of the Sky Elixir sect, Lin Yi tidied up a little and got ready to eat with Qi. Huh? What's this? Qi looked at the pig-like animal that Lin Yi took out from his backpack. He paused, then remembered that this was the skybolt pig that Lin Yi brought to the ice palace last time. Wasn't it? He said happily. Little guy, we meet again? But the pig didn't pay any attention to Qi. He whimpered and jumped into Lin Yi's arms, evidently uncomfortable in the backpack. We can bring spirit beasts in this test, right? Lin Yi asked. Yes, the invitation didn't say that, so it should be fine, Qi said awkwardly. This little guy is pretty cute, but it doesn't look like a spirit beast with any attack skills. We can use it for treasure hunting. Lin Yi didn't hide it. Back in the Ice Palace, after Lin Yi took Qi as his follower, he didn't use Skybolt Pig for treasure hunting anymore. He always used the excuse of going to the bathroom as an excuse, so Qi didn't know about the pig's abilities. At that time, Lin Yi didn't trust Qi, so he didn't say much. But now, there was no question of Qi loyalty. He was locked up for this long, just because he gave him information. It was enough to show how reliable he was. Treasure hunting? Qi paused, suddenly thinking of something. Could it be that back in the Ice Palace, Boss found so many treasures because of this pig? That's right. Lin Yi nodded. Let's go eat. Chapter 2780. Lin Yi carried the pig and went downstairs with Qi. The pig didn't need to eat these things, but it was used to eating normal food at home. It hadn't eaten for a few days, so naturally it was hungry. Lin Yi saw Feng Shipian and the other practitioner in the restaurant. Feng Shipian saw Lin Yi and Qi, evidently very happy. He waved at them. Young warriors, come eat with us? It's my treat. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't think that these two hadn't eaten yet, so he purposely stayed in the room upstairs for a while. Now that they were inviting him, Lin Yi couldn't really reject them. After all, there were only two people in the restaurant. All right, we'll take it then, Lin Yi said, as he brought Qi to the empty seat in front of Feng Shipian and the practitioner. Feng Shipian, let's reintroduce ourselves. Feng Shipian reached out his hand and said politely to Lin Yi, Lin Yi, this is my follower, Zhao Qi. Lin Yi shook hands with Feng Shipian, but he kept an eye on his reaction. What disappointed Lin Yi was that there was no expression on Feng Shipian's face, as if he'd never heard of the name Lin Yi before. In truth, Feng Shipian really hadn't heard of this name. He didn't even know the name Lin Yi. After all, the Ice Palace test was a secret, and the outside world only knew that Feng Nitian and Zhang Naipeo were crippled. As for who did it, no one knew. After all, the Ice Palace still had some power, and the hidden houses didn't dare say anything. As for the two crippled people, it was easy to find out. There were only two people from the ancient level who participated in the test, and they were both crippled when they came back. There was no way to hide it. I'm Gu Xian, a freelancer working for Feng Bro. The freelancer introduced himself as well. I'm an Earth-class late-phase peak. Hee, I'm just a late-stage Earth-class, a lone cultivator. Lin Yi smiled faintly. This little brother of mine comes from the hidden house Zhao, but he's a bit weak as well. He's only mystic mid-phase peak. Lin Yi's words shocked Feng Shipian and Gu Xian. Lin Yi was also a rogue cultivator? Then why did he take in a lackey from a hidden house? You should know. Although the hidden plane was not as good as the ancient plane, but compared to a rogue cultivator, it was still in existence that they could only look up to. As a rogue cultivator, Gu Xian knew that if he went to a hidden house, he would at most be a guard or a disciple, not to mention accepting other people's children as their underlings. Even becoming their followers also depended on luck. It would be fine if Lin Yi was a sky class master, but he was only an earth class late phase and he already had a mystic middle phase peak. This was a little unbelievable. Hero Lin, nice to meet you. Feng Shipian didn't look down on Lin Yi. Quite the contrary. He felt that these lone cultivators were the easiest to get along with. There was no need to worry about the conflicts between the ancient houses and sections. As long as they got along, they could become good friends. I come from the ancient house Feng. At this time, Feng Shipian revealed his background for the first time. Even Gu Xian didn't know about it before. This was also after Lin Yi introduced Zhao Qiquan's background. Gu Xian paused, shocked. Feng bro, you really are from the ancient house Feng? That Feng Nitian. That's my cousin. Feng Shipian said. Too bad. He was so young and became a vegetable. Even now, he hasn't woken up. Although he can't blame others for his lack of skills, this is still a huge blow to our house Feng. I'm here this time to ask for a great recovery pill for him. Lin Yi was shocked. He didn't think that his guess would come true. Feng Shipian really was from the ancient house Feng, and he was Feng Nitian's cousin. He had to be careful. No way. I heard that Feng Nitian is very arrogant and wants to fight for the position of the young head. How can you ask for medicine for him? Isn't that threatening your position? Gu Xian was obviously a well-informed person. Feng bro, I see that you're an honest person. Don't let a tiger grow in your boss. If you cure him, he'll come back to threaten you. Feng bro, don't blame me for talking too much. I'm just thinking for you. Gu Xian, I know you're thinking for me. It's fine. Feng Shipian shook his head and said nonchalantly, my mother often tells me to be on guard against Nitian. But I always feel that since Nitian is my cousin, I can't just sit back and do nothing, right? Oh, then do you hate people who hurt overpowered? Qiquan probed. Hate? Feng Shipian was taken aback, but he shook his head. In the trial, his skills were not as good as others, so he lost. I know his nature-defying personality. If he didn't want to kill others, they wouldn't have been so ruthless. Actually, I understand what you're saying. I'm not an idiot. How could I not know this? But I think that he's still my brother. Haha. Do you know why I'm here for the test? Qiquan smiled and asked. Oh, why? Feng Shipian was curious as well. Normally, the hidden houses wouldn't send people to the sky elixir test. After all, the disciples of the hidden houses weren't very strong. Even the elites of the houses were mostly mystic, and most of them didn't come back. As time went by, the hidden houses stopped sending people. The ancient sects and ancient houses, on the other hand, had more disciples of this level. They wanted to contribute to the sect or the house. So most of the participants were from the ancient level. Because I have a cousin who wants to get rid of me. He told my grandpa to send me here to die. Qiquan sighed. Luckily, boss is protecting me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to come back. Feng Shipian was silent. In fact, when his third uncle asked him to participate in the trial, he already knew what was going on. His third uncle wanted him to either return safely and obtain the great cyclic pill, or die here. Others might not know, but he was very clear that his third uncle had an illegitimate child outside. When he died, he wouldn't be able to recover from his heaven-defying state. His grandfather had no choice but to let that illegitimate child return to the Feng family. Although Feng Shipian knew about this, his character couldn't be changed. But I can't do something like that. Feng Shipian sighed. I won't hide it from you. I was the one who crippled Nitian, Lin Yi said suddenly. Chapter 2781. Naipeo, on the other hand, had confidence in coming here. The Five Elements sect didn't just give Lin Yi a copy of the Sky Elixir Sect's map. They also asked for a copy from the Sky Elixir Sect for the everyday sect. They didn't want anything to happen to Naipeo during the test. This trial was different from the previous ones. In the previous trials, The purpose of the Heavenly Elixir sect was only to obtain the spiritual herbs and the high deposit that the trial takers had to pay. This time, however, it was all for a plan. Therefore, the Heavenly Elixir sect loosened the conditions of the trial, changing the previous conditions of the mystic class and earth class to the mystic class and above. Others might not know, but as one of the initiators of the heavenly class island plan, how could they not know the situation? If Naipeo hadn't gotten the map, Pinliang wouldn't have let him take the risk. He'd rather not have the pill, and he'd rather not have to teach Lin Yi a lesson. Of course, Pinliang naturally hoped that Lin Yi would die in the test, but he didn't know why. But he had this feeling that Lin Yi wouldn't die in the test. After becoming the Mad Dragon Master, Pinliang's senses were much stronger than before. He didn't know if this feeling was real or not. Not only did he think that Lin Yi would be fine, but he also thought that Zhang Naipeo would be the one in trouble in the end. But he just couldn't understand it. With Naipeo's current strength, he shouldn't be threatened by Lin Yi at all, especially with 2 Sky-class mid-phase protecting him. That was even more of a problem. However, Pinliang still felt like he was missing something, but since the 2 souls had just merged, he couldn't remember what it was. He didn't know what it was. Naipeo saw Lin Yi as well, and his face changed. This was what it meant when enemies met. He never would have thought that he'd meet Lin Yi right after he arrived. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Lin Yi, I didn't think you'd come. Looks like Liang Bro was right, you're asking for a beating. I didn't go to Donghai to find you, but you came to me on your own. Naipeo smiled coldly as he strode towards Lin Yi, the 2 followers behind him following on his left and right. Can we fight each other before the test starts? Lin Yi didn't know the rules, so he turned to Chiquan. As for Naipeo's words, Lin Yi completely ignored them. Sure, as long as the trial hasn't really started, you can make your move, Chiquan explained. But in Sky Elixir territory, you can't kill them. We can't kill them. That's the bottom line. Of course, not including suicide. Naipeo added faintly, Suicide? Lin Yi looked at Naipeo. You're saying that you want to commit suicide? Haha, we don't know who's going to commit suicide yet. Lin Yi, do you really want to beat me up right now? Naipeo asked. So what if I am? Lin Yi asked. Then don't say, I didn't give you a chance. I'll just stand here and let you hit me. I'll give you a chance to vent your anger, but if you don't do it, don't say I look down on you, Naipeo said. Lin Yi looked at Naipeo, confused. He didn't know what was wrong with this guy, asking him to hit him. You're not going to fight back? Of course I won't fight back if you cripple me, but if you don't do it, don't say I'm not going to be nice, Naipeo said. Lin Yi listened to Naipeo's words, his heart filled with questions. Still, he quickly channeled the 9th form of the fiery fist, standing up abruptly. Fiery 8 trigrams palm, 9th form. Don't, Master Lin. Gu Xian seemed to have remembered something. She tried to stop him, but it was too late. But Lin Yi's fiery 8 trigrams palm didn't land on Naipeo's body instead. He targeted one of Naipeo's Sky-class followers. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the left Sky-class follower flew out, landing heavily on the ground far away from the restaurant. Who knew what material the restaurant was made of, but the ground wasn't damaged at all. Perhaps the Heavenly Elixir sect had considered the possibility of conflict between the cultivators here, so they used some special materials. Ah! The follower screamed as his chest became a mess of flesh and blood, caving in. He only screamed once before his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Lin Yi didn't use his full strength, saving some of his strength for escaping. 1, he was afraid that Naipeo would make a move, and 2, he didn't want to break the rules by killing the follower. But even if Lin Yi held back and didn't kill the follower was now a cripple, and even a great recovery pill wouldn't be able to save him. Lin Yi's attacks now weren't the same as when he was mystic. Nitian could still be saved with a great recovery pill, but this follower wasn't. Why did you hit him? Naipeo was shocked and furious. He was just standing there, letting Lin Yi hit him. He didn't think that Lin Yi would go for the follower behind him. The follower didn't even know what was going on. And he was already a cripple. This was a Sky class mid-phase. Even the everyday sect didn't have that many. But what shocked Naipeo even more was that Lin Yi could actually enter a Sky class mid-phase. And with just one move, Naipeo's face was dark and uncertain. He wanted to make a move here, but he was worried about Lin Yi's strength, especially since there were 4 people at the same table as Lin Yi. Other than Zhao Qikuan, he didn't know the strength of the other 2, and he didn't dare make a move. Birds of a feather flock together. If Lin Yi could take down a Sky class mid-phase in one move, then who could guarantee that the people around Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do the same? Naipeo didn't think that he would be defeated so soon after coming to the Sky Elixir sect, and the person who gave him this setback was Lin Yi. This was so similar to the time in the Ice Palace trial. At that time, he was the one who gave Lin Yi a show of strength, turning Lin Yi into a cripple. And now Lin Yi was the one who gave him a show of strength, crippling one of his Sky class mid-phase followers. Chapter 2782. Although Lin Yi was suspected of a sneak attack, whether it was a sneak attack or not, it also showed that Lin Yi's strength was there. Gu Xian believed that if it was him, he would not be able to do it. Moreover, he just clearly felt that the skill that Lin Yi used was actually the 15th style of Heaven class. This skill could only be used by masters in the middle stage of Heaven class, but Lin Yi was obviously only a master in the middle stage of Earth class. Lin Yi, we'll see you in the trial. Zhang Naipeo finally held back and did not fight with Lin Yi on the spot. First, he was afraid that he would kill Lin Yi directly and affect the trial plan. Second, if he did not use his ultimate skill, he was afraid that he would not be a match for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi took the initiative to attack him, it would be okay, but if he continued to attack his other follower on the right, it would be a bit of a mess, and Zhang Naipeo would be a commander without an army. Oh, Lin Yi responded indifferently. Humph! Zhang Naipeo snorted coldly and said to his other follower, Mo, Ba, carry Mo Jiu, let's go. Yes, gunslinger. Mo Ba's follower was scared as well. Lin Yi had crippled Mo Jiu with one move, and it was obvious that he was still holding back. If Lin Yi were to attack again, he wouldn't be able to handle it. After listening to Zhang Naipeo's words, Mo Ba was relieved. He carried Mo Jiu on his back and quickly left the restaurant with Zhang Naipeo. It could be said that he came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Gu Xian, just now you stopped me because... Lin Yi turned to look at Gu Xian and asked, Gu Xian came back to his senses. The scene just now was too shocking for him. He did not expect that Zhang Naipeo, who was so powerful in the legends, who had killed a disciple of the Holy Fist Palace on the trial road, would be thwarted. And the one who defeated him was a rogue cultivator that he had just met, a rogue cultivator that he did not pay much attention to. Before, when Lin Yi said that he had injured Nitian, Gu Xian was only impressed. After all, he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, and it had been a long time since he'd seen it. He hadn't seen it with his own eyes, and it had been a long time, so he didn't really care about it. But now, Gu Xian finally knew there was a reason why Lin Yi could defeat Nitian. Before, I heard that the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace also hit Zhang Naipeo and became disabled. I suddenly thought of it. Naipeo just stood there and let you hit him. Would that be a problem? Gu Xian explained. I also thought of this, so I didn't hit him. Instead, I hit one of his followers. Lin Yi nodded. He wanted to get rid of as many as he could. Naipeo had brought 2 followers with him this time, and Lin Yi was a bit worried. But now that one was gone, things would be easier, as long as they were in the trial. If he formed an alliance with Feng Shipian, he should be able to fight against Naipeo and Feng Shipian. he would deal with Nai Peo, and Feng Shipian would balance Mo Ba. Unless Mo Ba was similar to Lin Yi, Feng Shipian, a master at the early stage of Heaven Stage, could still deal with him for a while. Yes, although I don't know what is going on. But thinking about it, Zhang Naipeo didn't do anything before. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was disabled. It is very strange, and he took the initiative to let you hit him. I feel that this is very strange. There must be something wrong. Gu Xian said, that's why I stopped you from doing it. Lin Yi nodded and said, I also have this worry. Zhang Naipeo is a disciple of the demon sect, and we can't judge him by common sense. It seems that we have to investigate carefully. Don't worry, I will try my best to find out, but what I can find out is actually only on the surface. I can't do anything about things that are too confidential. Gu Xian shrugged and said helplessly. Not long after Zhang Naipeo left, another 3 cultivators came. Obviously, they were also here to participate in the trial, but one of them was alone and his face was pale, as if he was very unlucky. The other 2 were on guard against him, and it seemed that they wanted to keep a distance from him. The disciple with a pale face is the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. One of his companions was disabled by Zhang Naipeo, and because he has a grudge against Zhang Naipeo, the other 2 dare not get too close to him. Gu Xian explained to Lin Yi and others in a low voice. Where are the other 2 people from? Lin Yi asked. I don't know. I have news about the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace because they fought with Zhang Naipeo. Gu Xian said, Young hero, would you like to come and sit with us? At this time, Feng Shipian stood up and threw an olive branch to the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. In fact, he was not stupid, but he was honest and straightforward. He could also imagine that Lin Yi and Zhang Naipeo were sworn enemies, and he had sat with Lin Yi before, so it was inevitable that he would be regarded as an enemy by Zhang Naipeo. The enemy of the enemy was a friend. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace had disabled his companion, so he must have hated Zhang Naipeo to the core. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was stunned. He did not expect that someone would take the initiative to recruit him. The disciples of other sects avoided him, for fear that Zhang Naipeo would take revenge on them if they had anything to do with him. He was considering whether he should continue to participate in the trial when someone greeted him. Hello, are you calling me? The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace pointed to himself and asked with some uncertainty. Of course, I am Feng Shipian, an internal master at the early stage of Heaven Stage. I am a disciple of the ancient Feng family. May I know your name? Young hero? Feng Shipian asked with a smile. My name is Li Siba from the Holy Fist Palace. I am a physical master at the middle stage of Heaven Stage. Li Siba cupped his fists and said in fear and trepidation. Usually, the disciples of the Holy Fist Palace were very arrogant. Although the other party was a disciple of the ancient Feng family, he was only at the early stage of Heaven Stage. Li Siba certainly looked down on him, but the situation was different now. Feng Shipian had taken the initiative to talk to him, which was already giving him a lot of face. Oh, young hero Li, sit down. Let me introduce you to the others. Feng Shipian pointed to Lin Yi and said, This is young hero Lin, a master at the late stage of Earth Stage. Speaking of Lin Yi's strength, Li Siba's eyes flashed a trace of disappointment. In his opinion, Lin Yi's strength was too low. Among these people, Feng Shipian's strength was the highest, but it was impossible for him to compete with Zhang Naipeo and the others. Young hero Li, don't underestimate Brother Lin. Although Brother Lin is only a master at the late stage of Earth Stage, he just destroyed one of Zhang Naipeo's men in the middle stage of Heaven Stage. It was just one move, so Brother Lin's strength is the strongest among us. Feng Shipian also saw the disdain in Li Siba's eyes, so he explained and even addressed Lin Yi respectfully as Brother Lin. Li Siba was stunned and looked at Lin Yi in horror. Chapter 2797. Extremely impressed, of course, Li Siba knew the strength of Zhang Naipeo's men. They were real masters at the middle stage of Heaven Stage, and Lin Yi could destroy them in one move. What kind of terrifying strength was this? He had suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands before, so he knew very well how strong they were. Although he was also a middle stage of Heaven Stage, he didn't get the upper hand against two of Zhang Naipeo's men. If he didn't run fast enough, he might have been crippled. However, he didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to cripple Zhang Naipeo's men, and he was still eating here without any injuries. It was unbelievable. Li Siba greets young hero Lin. Brother Lin, you really are my idol. Brother Lin, you may already know that our disciples of the Holy Fist Palace suffered a great loss in the hands of Zhang Naipeo. I thought there was no hope for revenge, but I didn't expect Brother Lin to help us. I am so grateful. Li Siba looked at Lin Yi with admiration. Zhang Naipeo and I are enemies, and I crippled him in the Ice Palace last time. It's normal for him to come looking for trouble. It's not like it has anything to do with you. Lin Yi said nonchalantly with a wave of his hand. Damn, Brother Lin, you're so strong. You crippled Zhang Naipeo last time. Did you cripple Feng Nitian as well? Li Siba suddenly turned his head and looked at Feng Shipian. He didn't know why Feng Shipian was sitting with Lin Yi. Didn't Lin Yi destroy a member of the Fengs? Brother Li, you don't need to look at me like that. I know my cousin very well. He's arrogant and domineering. He tried to steal the treasures from Brother Lin in the Ice Palace trial, so he got crippled by Brother Lin. He only has himself to blame. Feng Shipian shook his head. This won't affect my relationship with Brother Lin. In actuality, Feng Shipian wasn't an idiot at all. He came here to get medicine for Nitian, but he didn't show any hostility towards the person who injured Nitian. Instead, he showed friendliness. This was enough to show that Feng Shipian was the type of person who looked like a fool. I see. Li Siba nodded. Brother Lin is so strong. Why don't we nominate Brother Lin to be our captain? We'll form a team and join the trial under Brother Lin's lead. I think that's a good idea. Gu Xian was very impressed by Lin Yi as well. Of course I'm fine with it. With Brother Lin leading our team, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. Feng Shipian smiled. Lin Yi is my boss. I'll definitely be fine, Qi Kun said. And so, Lin Yi became the captain out of nowhere. He couldn't do anything about it. By the way, Xiai Ba, where are the two disciples who came with you from? They seem to be on guard against you? Lin Yi asked. Since everyone had chosen him to be the captain, he wouldn't reject it, and called Sibylle Siba. Those two are from the Dark Palace, average strength, Earth class mid-phase. Of course, I'm not looking down on Earth classes. A master like Brother Lin is even stronger than us Sky class masters. Sibyl was worried that Linny wouldn't be happy, so he added, these two were trying to get on our good side on the way here, wanting to join me and my disciple, but then we met Zhang Naipeo, and my disciple was crippled. So the two of them just kept their distance from us. A disciple of the Dark Palace? Lin Yi had heard of the Dark Palace before, back when Lin Yi came back from West Star Mountain. Lin Yi had heard of them before. All of a sudden, Lin Yi felt a headache. Lin Yi remembered the trip to West Star Mountain and felt like his memories were a little fragmented. There were a lot of things missing, but he just couldn't remember them. Brother Lin, what's wrong? Do you have a grudge against the Dark Palace? Li Siba saw the frown on Lin Yi's face and thought that Lin Yi had a grudge against them. Do you need me to teach them a lesson? Nope, don't do anything stupid. Lin Yi waved his hand. I was just thinking about something else. It's nothing. All right, Li Siba wanted to show off in front of Lin Yi, but he didn't have the chance to. After a while, more disciples came into the restaurant, some that Gu Xian and the others knew, and some that they didn't. The one that caught Lin Yi's attention was a female disciple from the Ice Palace. Lin Yi thought that Zhao Qijiu or Yubing would come, but they didn't. In truth, the Sky Elixir's test was full of danger, and Yubing and Chicho were both people that Lin Yi had asked Xiao Xiao to take care of. Naturally, Xiao Xiao wouldn't let them come to a test like this, not to mention that Xiao Xiao didn't know that Lin Yi was going to participate in the Sky Elixir test. After all, the last time Lin Yi participated in the Sky Elixir test was a coincidence, and Lin Yi didn't have much to do with the Sky Elixir test. At first, Lin Yi thought that he wouldn't meet anyone he knew in the test, but then the door opened, and a cool girl in black walked in carefully. She didn't greet anyone, but found a corner and sat down. Puffed! Lin Yi spat out the drink he was drinking when he saw who it was. Who else could it be but Yang Chi-Chi? Lin Yi didn't expect Yang Chi-Chi to participate in the Sky Elixir test as well. What was she doing here? Was she going to trade for some medicine for her friend? Bro Lin, what's wrong? Shipian asked curiously. Nothing. I just saw someone I know. Lin Yi said, Then tell her to come sit with us? Shipian said passionately, It's okay, she's a bit of a loner. We'll see. Lin Yi shook his head. Lin Yi knew Yang Chi-Chi's personality very well. Lin Yi wouldn't mess with her if there wasn't anything going on in case she tried to kill him. After dinner, Lin Yi and the others went back to their rooms to rest. There were a lot of practitioners in the restaurant, and Yang Chi-Chi didn't notice Lin Yi. She left alone after dinner, and it seemed like she didn't have any friends here. Nai Peo didn't know if it was because he was defeated by Lin Yi, but he didn't come back down after he went upstairs, and he didn't eat either. Bro Lin, what's that spirit beast of yours? Why does it look like a pet? It shouldn't be of much use in this test, right? Gu Xian was a knowledgeable man, and he found the spirit beast in Lin Yi's hand strange. Chapter 2783. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wouldn't say too much to Gu Xian. After all, the two hadn't known each other for long, and there was no need for Lin Yi to say too much. I understand now. Brother Lin is a freelancer, and this spirit beast is like a contracted spirit beast, unwilling to part with you. Gu Xian speculated. Lin Yi smiled but didn't explain. He changed the topic and asked Li Siba, Right, Siba, just what kind of move did Zhang Naipeo use to cripple your disciple? I heard that your disciple only punched Naipeo once, and Naipeo didn't even do anything. Yet your disciple was crippled? Yes. Li Siba nodded. I was there, but I was curious as well. Naipeo was just standing there, taking a punch from my disciple, and Naipeo was coughing up blood. He had to take a Xiao Huan pill on the spot, and I thought that my disciple would be able to win. Who would have thought that my disciple would fall to the ground after the punch, suffering from severe internal injuries? I couldn't even ask him about it. Oh. Lin Yi paused, not expecting things to be this weird. He'd thought that Gu Xian was just hearing it from someone else, but now that he heard it, Lin Yi realized that things were way beyond his imagination. Zhang Naipeo didn't do anything, and he got injured instead? And your disciple fainted? Is that so? Isn't it weird? Li Siba smiled bitterly. I'm actually wondering what's going on as well. It seems like I'll have to be more careful when I fight Naipeo. Lin Yi thought about Naipeo. After returning to his room, Lin Yi called Meng Yao to ask if anything had happened back home. Lin Yi only calmed down after hearing that everything was fine. However, what Lin Yi didn't know was that Jiang Wen's plot had begun once more during this period of time. Jiang Wen had been holding back all this time. In fact, he wouldn't be able to do much in Donghai with Lin Yi around. With Ling Shan's position here, Lin Yi would be the first to think that it was Jiang Wen's doing if there were any strange cases. With no other choice, Jiang Wen was thinking about committing the crime elsewhere. However, to commit a crime in a different place required opportunities. It wasn't something that could be done, just because one wanted to. One had to be prepared. However, what made Jiang Wen excited was that the vice leader of the Fire Wolves Gang's Northern Division called him personally, giving him a huge mission. Yanjing City, in a high-class nightclub, Lu Tianli was eating with a big supplier. This supplier's price was much cheaper than the previous one. After a few days of contact, Tianli realized that the boss of this company didn't like much other than going to nightclubs and partying every night. In order to get a better price, Tianli naturally accompanied him every day. After all, a big supplier of this level could not be handled by an ordinary vice president. Boss Lu, this nightclub is very good. I like it very much, especially the decoration style. It makes me feel relaxed and happy. This supplier was called Boss Lang, and he was quite a straightforward person. He didn't put too much pressure on Tianli, only telling him that he was having fun with him. I'll sign a contract with you. This kind of business interaction was actually the simplest. The other party had hobbies, and you just had to cater to them. Tianli ate and drank with Boss Lang every day, so it didn't cost him much. Boss Lang, do you have any more cigarettes? Give me another pack. I have to say, the cigarettes you brought back from Cuba are really strong. It feels different when I smoke them. Tianli was quite familiar with Boss Lang now, so he didn't mind asking for more. Ha. How is it? Didn't I tell you? My cigarettes are different from the ones in your country. I got a friend to make them, so it's completely different. Boss Lang smiled. But I'm out of those cigarettes. I didn't bring much this time, just a few cartons. I gave 2 to Boss Lu, and the rest were all smoked by us. That's all. Tianli was a little regretful, but he had fallen in love with the taste of those special cigarettes these days. He couldn't resist the craving if he didn't smoke them for a day. But there are others. You can try them too. I promise you won't be bad. Boss Lang said as he turned to the person beside him. Little Chui, go get a few cartons of cigarettes from the car. The special ones too? Yes, Boss Lang. Chui nodded and left the room. Your subordinate's name is quite funny. Chui Mianshi sounds like a hypnotist. Tianli couldn't help but joke after hearing that there were special cigarettes that sounded similar. Ha! Boss Lang laughed and didn't say anything. Not long later, Chui came back with 4 to 5 cartons of cigarettes in his hands. He opened one of them and took out a pack for Tianli, lighting it up for him diligently. Good smoke. Tianli couldn't help but praise after taking a puff. Very refreshing, even better than before. Boss Lang, you're so mean. Why didn't you bring out the good stuff earlier? Little bro Lu, I thought we weren't close before. We didn't really get along, so I didn't bring it out. Now that we're close, it doesn't matter anymore. Boss Lang smiled. All right, when can we sign the contract, Mr. Lang? Tianli asked, striking the iron while it was hot. Oh, the contract? Sure. Little Chui, go get the contract. Boss Lu, and I will sign it now. Boss Lang waved his hand at Chui Mianshi. Yes, Boss Lang. Chui replied and went to prepare. Tianli didn't expect the signing process to be this smooth, and his impression of this CEO Lang increased by leaps and bounds. After looking at the contract, he realized that the terms were all very fair, and with a wave of his pen, he signed it. Boss Lang, on the other hand, gave all the remaining cigarettes in the car to Tianli in celebration, and the two's happy business partnership officially began the second day. More practitioners came to the Sky Elixir section, but Naipeo and Mo, Bosman, were still nowhere to be seen. This made Lin suspicious. Why didn't these people eat? But it was normal for practitioners to not eat for a few days, so it wasn't that strange. In fact, it wasn't that Naipeo didn't want to come out, but Lin had suddenly injured one of his men, filling him with rage and hatred. His chrysanthemum arts was a technique that leveled up through hatred. Chapter 2784. He had a feeling that he was about to step into Sky class, and so he went back to his room and prepared to go into closed-door training. He spent the entire night under Demon 8's protection, channeling his practitioner's arts. The next morning, Naipeo finally broke through and stepped into Sky class. Above the inn of the Heavenly Elixir sect, a large amount of spirit chi of heaven and earth rushed over. The cultivators living in the inn all knew that this was a sign that someone was about to make a breakthrough. But who on earth would be so lucky to make a breakthrough at this time? The others didn't know, but Lin Yi was a bit surprised. Lin Yi remembered that only Naipeo and his men weren't here. Could it be that Naipeo had broken through? Did you hear? Someone broke through in the Ice Palace last time. I heard it was Zhang Naipeo from the an everyday sect. What a coincidence. A disciple from Fire Mountain said from a nearby table. I know Naipeo. He's here already. I saw his name at the sign-in booth, but he's not in the restaurant right now. Could it be that he's still the one breaking through? A disciple from the Dark Palace said, surprised. Then it's probably Naipeo again. The disciple from Fire Mountain nodded. The disciple from Fire Mountain nodded. The everyday sect, they have a lot of power, and we can't be envious of them. I heard that Zhang Naipeo is a core disciple, and we're only here for the rewards. It's different. That's true, but I heard that in the Ice Palace last time, other than Naipeo, there was another person who broke through as well. He's pretty strong as well. He was the one who injured Naipeo. I wonder if he's here yet? The disciple from the Endless West Sea said, it's best if we don't talk about these things too much. Even though we're all from the ancient era, it'll still be troublesome if the disciples of the Ice Palace hear about it. The disciple from Fiery Mountain had reminded him not to bring up the fight with the Ice Palace. What's there to be afraid of? We, the Ice Palace and the Endless West Sea, are all water practitioners. We're from the same line. They'll at least give us some face. The Endless West Sea disciples said casually. Lin, he could clearly hear their conversation. In fact, the distance between each table was not far. Few of the practitioners here were of the profound rank. Most of them were of the earth rank or even the heaven rank. It was very easy for them to hear what was being discussed at other tables. Since the heavenly elixir sect had changed the level standard of the participants, the cultivators sent by each sect would not be limited to the profound stage in order to have a better chance of winning. Usually, they would send disciples with relatively higher strength. That way, they would have a higher chance of winning. However, from the looks of it, the news about him did not spread out. The ancient era only knew about this matter. However, they didn't know who he was. It wasn't long before Chi-Chi walked in, but there were no empty tables left. Familiar cultivators sat at each table in 2s and 3s. After buying breakfast, Chi-Chi wanted to find an empty table to sit down, but when she came to a table, the 2 cultivators sitting there glared at her angrily. Chi-Chi wanted to get angry, but she didn't dare to. She could only find another seat. After all, the practitioners here were all stronger than Chi-Chi. There was no way Chi-Chi would be a match for them. Chi-Chi found another 2 tables, but the cultivators there were also very unfriendly towards her, telling her to leave. These disciples of the ancient era were very particular about their cliques. Only disciples from sects they had good relationships with would sit together, and they were quite hostile towards outsiders. At this level, cultivators usually didn't have that much of a need for beauties. No one would look at Chi-Chi differently just because she was a pretty girl. In the eyes of these disciples, there were only cultivation and benefits. As for beauties, they were just floating clouds. Chi-Chi was very troubled. She didn't think that there would be no more seats in the restaurant while she was sleeping. The most annoying thing was that the cultivators here weren't easy to get along with. She was alone, and there wasn't even a place for her to sit. Excuse me, may I sit here? Chi-Chi had learned her lesson this time. She asked politely at the next table. No. The Endless West Sea disciple at the table next to Lin, he said coldly. Evidently, they were quite wary of cultivators they didn't know. Unless it was someone like Feng Shipian who liked to make friends, or the 2 weaker ones from the Dark Palace, the others all had their own circles and wouldn't accept newcomers easily. Chi-Chi was on the verge of tears at the heartless rejection. She held her plate, not knowing if she should leave or stay. She decided to give it a try and asked Lin Yi's table. If it didn't work, she'd quickly finish her food in the corner and go back to her room. She was so unlucky. Excuse me, may I sit here? Chi-Chi asked. listlessly. Sure, but you'll have energy after dinner. Just don't turn around and try to kill me. Lin Yi smiled as he looked at Chi-Chi. Ah, you're Lin Yi? Chi-Chi's eyes went wide. She didn't think that she'd meet Lin Yi here. She felt the urge to cry. She didn't think that the one who would take her in would be her enemy, Lin Yi. I'm Lin Yi, but you don't have to be so surprised, do you? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Chi-Chi. This cool girl was way too shocked. Great, great. I've finally met someone I know. Chi-Chi was on the verge of tears as she put her plate down. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she would have been crouching in the corner to eat or bring her breakfast back to her room. Bro Lin, aren't you going to introduce us? Feng Shipian loved making friends. He smiled at Lin Yi. This is my, how do I put it, friend and foe, I guess. She's young Chi-Chi, also a freelancer, a physical practitioner. Right? What's your level now? Lin Yi didn't know what Chi-Chi's level was. She was a physical practitioner, but Lin Yi couldn't tell. Chapter 2785. Lin Yi nodded, not making fun of her. Lisiba is a physical practitioner as well. You two should get to know each other when you're free. Lin Yi always had a weird feeling towards Chi-Chi. This girl was always biting the hand that fed her, but Lin Yi did see her body back then. It was an undeniable fact. And so Lin Yi's feelings for her were complicated as well. He didn't want anything to happen to her, but there was no way he could open his heart to her. Young Chi-Chi started wolfing down her breakfast. She was really starving. She'd been practicing her butterfly steps until midnight, but she didn't make any progress. She overslept, and she didn't have a place to eat in the morning. Naturally, she'd eaten quickly now. When does the test start? Lin Yi was done with his breakfast, waiting for Chi-Chi. He started chatting with Feng Shipian and the others. Tonight is the registration time. The test officially starts tomorrow morning. Feng Shipian said, Bro Lin, you don't know anything about the test. No, I told you I'm a solo practitioner, Lin Yi said. Are you a solo practitioner from the common world? Gu Xian was a bit surprised. There were a few types of solo practitioners. Someone like him might be called a solo practitioner, but he was actually someone who roamed between the ancient and hidden planes, relying on his own strength to get some benefits and resources. These people were quite well informed about the ancient world, and Lin Yi didn't know anything. This meant that he was a solo practitioner from the common world. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to step into the mystic class with his own strength, much less earth class. This was also why there weren't many high-level practitioners in the common world. Solo practitioners are divided into the common world and the non-common world. Lin Yi paused. Of course, I'm a lone cultivator, but I'm actually registered in the ancient and hidden planes. I have my own way of making a living. Nominally, I'm also restricted by the rules of the ancient and hidden planes. But at the same time, I get a lot of benefits. For example, I enjoy the same treatment as the ancient sects and hidden houses. I can participate in whatever they can, Gu Xian said. That's not much of a difference. Lin Yi smiled and turned to Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, what kind of solo practitioner are you? I'm actually an overseas cultivator. All overseas cultivators are invited to events. And some of them formed an Overseas Cultivator Association. They'll send invitations to the association if there's anything here, Chi-Chi said. Oh, Lin Yi nodded, not surprised at all. The ring on Chi-Chi's finger was very familiar to Lin Yi. It belonged to an overseas assassin organization. Feng Shipian, Gu Xian, and Lisiba, on the other hand, were quite surprised they didn't expect Chi-Chi to be from overseas. Are there a lot of practitioners overseas? Gu Xian's occupational habit made him curious. Quite a few, but some didn't join the association. After all, it's a voluntary association. It's not mandatory. Chi-Chi explained, there might not be as many as here, but all of the practitioners in the association added together is equivalent to an ancient sect. I see. No one of you guys got invited. Gu Xian realized. But are you the only one participating in the test? Yeah, the foreign practitioners aren't that interested in these trainings. There are more physical practitioners there, and the rewards here aren't that enticing to them. Chi-Chi said, That's right, the foreign practitioners aren't that interested. I see. Gu Xian nodded. I really didn't think that there would be so many practitioners overseas. As they were talking, the door of the restaurant was suddenly pushed open, and two people came in. However, many of the chatting practitioners at the table became silent at the same time, and the others also shut their mouths after being reminded by others. It was Zhang Naipeo and Mo Ba. Ordinary ancient sects were really unwilling to provoke the people of the everyday, an everyday sect, especially Zhang Naipeo, who had been rumored to be a god. No one knew what kind of evil mantra he had practiced. Even the disciples of the Holy Fist Palace were crippled. How could the disciples of other ancient sects dare to provoke him? Who would dare to mess with him before they knew the situation? So, at this time, surprisingly, they all remained silent. However, the most surprised person was Lin Yi. The others couldn't see it, but Lin Yi saw it clearly. Zhang Naipeo was an Earth-class late phase peak yesterday, and this morning he became a Sky-class early phase master. Wasn't the speed of his advancement a little too fast? Before, Lin Yi had some confidence in his heart because he was wearing the golden cicada underwear, which could defend against any attack from an Earth-class master. No matter how powerful Zhang Naipeo was, he was still an Earth-class master. Lin Yi was wearing the golden cicada underwear that Zhong Pingliang gave him, so he wasn't afraid of Zhang Naipeo. But in the blink of an eye, when he woke up, Zhang Naipeo actually broke through and advanced. This made Lin Yi feel a sense of defeat, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. During the Ice Palace trial, Zhang Naipeo had advanced, but what made Lin Yi feel better was that during the Ice Palace trial, Lin Yi also advanced, but in the Heavenly Elixir trial, Lin Yi didn't have any opportunity to advance. Even when Lin Yi had just advanced to the Earth-class late phase, he hadn't reached the peak of the Earth-class late phase, and he didn't even touch the barrier of the Earth-class late phase peak, which made Lin Yi a little depressed. Haha, isn't this Lin Yi? Last time in the Ice Palace trial, you and I both broke through, but this time you seem to have dropped the ball. Naipeo saw Lin Yi right away and walked over with big steps, mocking Lin Yi. Lin Yi's face changed. Naipeo was hitting a sore spot, but there was nothing Lin Yi could do about it. He said coldly, Sky-class early phase. Huh? Your subordinate, Mo Jiu, is still Sky-class mid-phase. I wonder how he's doing now. Naipeo wanted to piss Lin Yi off, but Lin Yi's words made him speechless. He couldn't argue back and could only say, Humph, there's no point in talking. We'll see in the trial. Oh, Lin Yi replied faintly, not at all salty. This tone of disdain was driving Naipeo crazy. He wanted to piss Lin Yi off after breaking through, but Lin Yi wasn't pissing him off, and he was pissing himself off instead. Chapter 2786. Naipeo was pissed and he didn't look where he was going. He walked out of the restaurant and bumped into someone who had just entered. Bang. The two of them collided and each took 2 steps back. You think he's blind? I didn't see him? Why did he just bump into me? Naipeo didn't even have time to get angry when the other guy who got hit started pointing at Naipeo's nose. Kid, do you want to die or something? Do you know who I am? What? Naipeo paused. He didn't think that there would be someone else who dared to talk back to him in the Sky Elixir sect. After all, he'd seen everyone's reactions when he'd entered the restaurant, and they were all looking at him with respect and reverence. Naipeo was feeling a little smug, but who would have thought that some idiot would say that he didn't want to live? Humph, kid, this is the young master of the Yellow Soil High Sect, 2 Overlord. The guy who bumped into Naipeo didn't say anything, but one of his men jumped out. 2 Overlord? Naipeo blinked. That's right. How about it, scared now? 2 Overlord's man smiled coldly. at Naipeo. Yellow soil high sect? Never heard of it, but yellow soil high slope. Naipeo shook his head. Humph. We're from the West region. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Bumpkins like you have never seen the world get on your knees and beg if you want to live. Otherwise, don't blame our young master for being rude. The man raged. Oh, I'm not a bumpkin. I think your young master's surname is too, right? Naipeo had been pissed off at Lin Yi, and now these two idiots had come to him. Naturally, he wasn't going to let them go. So what if I'm rude? Heaven flipping earth. Eighth form. 2 Overlord activated his signature move, throwing a punch at Naipeo. Perhaps he knew the rules of the test, but he didn't want to kill Naipeo. He only wanted to cripple him. Bang. 2 Overlord's fist landed on Naipeo's body. The 8th stance wasn't enough to cripple him, but it still made him spit out a mouthful of blood. He had prepared quite a lot of pills this time, and he quickly popped one into his mouth. As for the Earth Overlord, he was already miserable. After spitting out 3 mouthfuls of blood, his eyes rolled back, and he fell straight to the ground, as if he had suffered a serious injury. Young master, what's wrong? Tuba Wang's subordinates were shocked. They hurriedly bent down to check on Tuba Wang's injuries. However, Tuba Wang's injuries were very serious, almost to the point of being incurable. All the meridians in his body were broken. Apart from his weak breathing, there was no sign of life. Humph, you overestimate yourself. Naipeo smiled coldly. You're just a Sky-class early phase peak, and you want to fight me? You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. This strange scene stunned everyone in the restaurant. Hearing about it was one thing, but seeing it with their own eyes was another. As expected, Naipeo didn't do anything at all. He just stood there. And yet Tua was lying on the ground, dead or alive. Lin Yi was shocked as well. He didn't know how Naipeo did this at all. Naipeo really didn't do anything. He didn't even move a finger. And Tuba Wang was already on the ground. This was a very strange situation. Lin Yi couldn't see the details from his angle, but Lin Yi guessed that this might be a powerful technique of Naipeo's. Could it be a technique that could reflect other people's techniques? But that didn't seem right either. Tuba Wang was a Sky-class early phase peak, and even if he used the 8th form of Heaven and Earth turning 8, he shouldn't have been crippled like that. Naipeo was a Sky-class early phase, and he could take a skill like that head-on and use a pill to nullify the damage. Tuba Wang, on the other hand, was crippled by his own skill? This didn't seem very realistic. Lin Yi didn't understand this at all. Lin Yi had heard of skills like Heaven and Earth Grand Shift that could deflect other people's attacks back, but this was clearly different from Naipeo's situation. It seemed like Naipeo didn't completely deflect it back because he was injured as well. According to Lin Yi's estimations, it was normal for the 8th form to make Naipeo spit out blood. This was within the normal range, so it meant that Naipeo had taken a hit. But how did Tuba Wang get injured? That was really strange. But thinking about it, Naipeo's wasp absorption arts was even weirder. Lin Yi couldn't help but shake his head. It seemed like he had underestimated Naipeo. It was fortunate that he reacted fast and didn't attack Naipeo directly. Otherwise, he would be the one on the ground right now. Before understanding Naipeo's cards, Lin Yi couldn't tell if he was a match for him or not. Tuba Wang's lackey looked at Naipeo hatefully before picking him up and leaving. He had to find a place to save Tuba Wang, and he knew that he wasn't a match for Naipeo, so he didn't do anything else. After taking down Tuba Wang, Naipeo's confidence was boosted. He laughed and turned to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, do you want to try? Lin Yi didn't say anything, ignoring Naipeo's question. In fact, Lin Yi's heart was pounding as well. He was wearing the mid-class golden cicada underwear. But Naipeo was a Sky-class. The underwear had no effect on him at all. If this was yesterday, Lin Yi still had a trump card, and that was the steel rod in his backpack. This could attack any practitioner below Sky-class. It could pierce through chi protection and attack. But What Linny didn't expect was that Naipeo would break through to Sky class in one night, turning this trump card of his into a useless one. He couldn't use it anymore. So now, be it Lin, E, or Naipeo, they were both at the stage of testing each other out. They didn't have full confidence, and neither wanted to make the first move. Lin E was like that, and Naipeo was also afraid of Lin E, who had crippled Emojio in one hit. Naipeo saw that Lin E wasn't paying attention to him, and he humphed and left the restaurant with Emo Ba, leaving quickly. Only then did the restaurant return to its previous hustle and bustle, but the practitioners around Lin Yi's table all stood up and left subconsciously, sitting next to other sect disciples they were familiar with, giving up the tables around Lin. Chapter 2787. Naipeo's words told them that Lin Yi was the one who'd crippled both Nitian and Naipeo in the Ice Palace test. Someone who was even scarier than Naipeo. Naturally, they'd stay away from him. Although they all had powerful sects behind them, background wasn't the point in the test. They could look down on Lin Yi when they got back to their sects, but who would be willing to take a loss in front of them right now? Even the practitioners who'd offended Chi-Chi felt threatened. Chi-Chi and Lin Yi were obviously close, and offending Chi-Chi was the same as offending Lin Yi. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't pursue the matter after Chi-Chi was done with her food, leading the group out of the restaurant. Of course, most of the disciples here were wary of Lin Yi, but they also looked down on Lin Yi. As far as they were concerned, he was just a freelancer, and no matter how strong he was still just a single person. He'd be nothing but trash against an ancient sect. Brother Lin, I'm really impressed today. That Zhang Naipeo is such a strong man, but he didn't dare do anything in front of Brother Lin. Li Siba said in admiration. Yeah, if we didn't meet Brother Lin, we'd be at a disadvantage in this test. Feng Shipian nodded. That's for sure. This Zhang Naipeo isn't someone we should mess with. Look at how pitiful that Tuo Yanwang was. He's a practitioner from the West, and he came all the way here, only to be beaten down before he could even participate in the test. Gu Xian added. Chi-Chi couldn't help but curl her lips as she watched the group of people flattering Lin Yi. Humph, this guy really was despicable. It seemed like there was no hope for her revenge. Forget it. How was she supposed to get revenge? He'd saved her so many times. It wouldn't make sense for her to bite the hand that fed her. With that thought, Chi-Chi sighed to herself. Let's not talk about that. You guys come to my room. I have something to discuss with you. Lin Yi waved his hand and said. Lin Yi didn't care about those flattering words. He was thinking about the long term. In the hidden plane, Lin Yi could be said to have a firm foothold, but in the ancient plane, Lin Yi was still much weaker and did not make his voice heard. Getting to know Feng Shipian and Li Siba was a very good opportunity, but the current situation was that he could only maintain a personal relationship with the disciples of these ancient sections. It would be difficult for him to gain the respect of the sects or families behind them. But why would I go to your room? Chi-Chi looked at Lin Yi cautiously. She'd been thinking about something else. She was distracted, so she didn't hear what Lin Yi said. She thought Lin Yi only wanted her to go alone. Hence, he immediately felt nervous. Lin Yi looked at Chi-Chi, flabbergasted. The others didn't know what was going on either. They didn't know what Chi-Chi was up to. You guys are coming to my room to discuss the test. Of course. But if you don't want to come, then forget it. Lin Yi looked at Chi-Chi. Ah, the test. Ah, about the trial? I'll go then. Chi-Chi blushed a little. She didn't hear him clearly and made a mistake. So everyone was going. Lin Yi shook his head and ignored her. The group went to Lin Yi's room, and Lin Yi took out the test map from his backpack. These people wanted him to be their captain, and Lin Yi wanted to rope them in. The test map was the best gift. Luckily, Lin Yi had printed out a lot of copies, or there wouldn't be enough. Lin Yi gave everyone a copy of the map, and they were all confused. Boss, what is this? Chikuan asked curiously. This is the test map. I got it beforehand. Linny said. What? The test map? Feng Shipian was shocked. He came from an ancient house, and even he didn't get a map beforehand. Lin, he was a freelancer from the common world, and he had a map. Li Siba was shocked as well. He didn't have a map either, but Linny did. Of course. Gu Xian was the most shocked of all. He sold information for a living, and it was Lin who'd gotten the map of the Sky Elixir School. It made him sweat. Who was the one who was making a living in this business? Chikuan, on the other hand, wasn't too surprised. He knew how mysterious Lin was, and he'd gotten used to it after a while. Chi-Chi was the same. She was numb to Lin Yi's power. It seemed like there were benefits to following Lin Yi, be it the test or the trade fair. On this map, there's a marked safe spot. If you run into any danger in the test, you can hide there and wait for the others to meet up. Lin Yi said, So, you're saying that as long as we get here, we'll be able to pass the test safely? Feng Shipian asked, surprised. Of course, you can first gather the required spiritual herbs and then hide here. You can also wait for me to arrive, and we can gather the required spiritual herbs together. However, after I arrive, I may not be able to gather enough spiritual herbs for so many people. Lin Yi said honestly, this map is just to protect everyone's life. It doesn't really help much. That's already very good. Gu Xian said, I know how hard this test is. If it weren't for the fact that I've been stuck at Earth-class late-phase peak for too long and wanted to try my luck and get a chi-gathering pill to break through, I wouldn't have come at all. There's a flaw in the chi-gathering pill, right? Lin Yi asked without batting an eyelid. That's true, but for us freelancers, reaching Sky Class is already pretty good. I know my own situation. If I can't reach Sky Class at my age, then my chances in the future will be even slimmer. Gu Xian said. Feng Shipian and Li Siba sighed. As well, Lin Yi was too smart of a leader. If they hadn't followed Lin Yi, then Lin Yi wouldn't have given them this map. Chi-Chi, on the other hand, looked pensive as she held the map, a faint smile on her face. Chapter 2788. The result of this trial has been changed. Anyone who successfully gathers a medicinal herb can exchange it for a third-grade elixir pill or a heavenly material that the Heavenly Elixir School currently has. Anyone who successfully gathers 2 medicinal herbs can exchange it for a third-grade elixir pill or a heavenly material that the Heavenly Elixir School currently has. Furthermore, they can also ask the Heavenly Elixir School to help them refine a third-grade elixir pill. Of course, the Heavenly Elixir School has the right to reject the type of elixir refined according to the difference of the elixir. Of course, you can also exchange it for a third-grade elixir or a heavenly treasure that the Heavenly Elixir School currently has. The fortune teller paused for a moment before continuing. The same goes for the 3 medicinal herbs. The cultivators present were in an uproar. They didn't expect that the Heavenly Elixir School's trial test would offer such a generous offer, which made them very tempted. They could ask to make elixirs for themselves. This was a great opportunity that they had never had before, especially the disciple from the Ice Palace. She was very excited. She came here to try her luck. The Sky Elixir School wouldn't concoct an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill for the Ice Palace. Even if she passed the trial, she would only get a level 3 Dan that the Sky Elixir School had already used. But what if she could get 2 herbs? However, she was only excited for a bit. Then she shook her head, not to mention whether she could get 2 herbs. Even if she could, the Sky Elixir School would be selective when they concoct a level 3 Dan. They wouldn't concoct a level 3 Dan for her. Seeing that there was no hope for her to exchange for a Dan, the disciple from the Ice Palace also decided to leave. She had been told by Bingtang that she should participate in the trial if it was possible. If not, then she should just come back. There was no need to risk her life for a Dan. The 5 Evils Savage Land is extremely dangerous. During the trial, I hope that no one will fight. After all, there are a lot of herbs there, and it's not too hard to find. It's just that there are too many spirit beasts there, so it's not easy to collect them. So, after you get the herbs, it's best that you come back as soon as possible. Tianji said, during the trial, life or death is up to fate. The Sky Elixir School won't take any responsibility. All right, those who have any objections, you can leave tonight. Those who don't have any objections, come to Elder Kong and pay the deposit. After Tianji said his piece, some people left while others stood up. When Lin Yi was about to swipe his card to pay the deposit for the trial of Heavenly Elixir Sect, Feng Shipian helped Lin Yi swipe his card first. Kong Mingming was expressionless throughout the whole process, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. This surprised Lin Yi a lot. Did the kid's personality change? Why wasn't there any change in his expression when I appeared? Could it be? Was there a bigger conspiracy behind all this? After paying the deposit and registering his strength, Lin Yi could leave with an entrance plate for the trial. The trial of the Heavenly Elixir Sect didn't even test the strength of the participants. It was not as strict as the Ice Palace's trial. But thinking about it, the Ice Palace was here to select outer disciples, while the Heavenly Elixir Sect was here purely for medicinal ingredients and money, so they didn't care about strength. Anyway, there was no upper limit for those above the mystic level. As long as you could afford the deposit, then you could participate at will. Of course, Lin Yi was wrong. This was the only time the trial of the Heavenly Elixir Sect didn't test the strength of the participants. The previous trials of the Heavenly Elixir Sect strictly tested the strength of the participants, and no cheating was allowed. After collecting all the deposits, Tianji asked the inn owner to arrange for everyone to go back and rest. He then said, "Gather here at 6:00 sharp tomorrow morning. I will lead everyone to the location of the trial of the Heavenly Elixir Sect, the 5 Evils Barren Land. Please come here on time, or else the deposit will not be refunded." Yes, everyone replied solemnly. One more thing. I have to remind everyone, from the beginning of the trial to the time you leave the Heavenly Elixir Sect, nothing that happens here is allowed to spread. In the 5 Evils Barren Land, no cameras or other electronic devices are allowed to record what happens inside. Tianji warned. He was afraid that someone would record the terrain of the 5 Evils Barren Land so that it would be easier for them to participate in the trial in the future. Everyone nodded in understanding. After all, these were all very reasonable requests. After everyone left, Tianji left with Kong Mingming as well. Kong Mingming's eyes scanned the direction of the inn, secretly praying that Zhang Naipeo would be able to kill Lin Yi this time. And that would be the end of it. The night passed peacefully, and the next morning, at 4:30, Lin Yi came back to reality from the training space. He went to the washroom to wash up and left the room. Originally, Lin Yi had planned to raise Qi strength to Earth class early phase, but Lin Yi didn't have any Qi gathering pills on him right now, and Qi was Mystic mid-phase peak right now. Raising him to late phase peak wouldn't help him much in the trial, and so Lin Yi decided not to bring it up. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that Zhao Qi, Feng Shipian, Guxian, and Li Sibyl were already out of the room, chatting not far from Lin Yi's door. Qi said when he saw Lin Yi, "Boss, you're awake." "Yeah, you guys are early. I was thinking of training a bit more." Lin Yi said, "Right, where's Chi-Chi? She's not up yet, right?" Qi looked at the room at the end of the hallway. "It's not good for us to wake her. Why don't you wake her up, boss?" Everyone, including Qi, didn't know what Lin Yi and Chi-Chi's relationship was, so naturally they couldn't wake her up. "All right, I'll go wake her up." Lin Yi knew Chi-Chi's room number, and he walked towards the end of the hallway. But just as Lin Yi was about to knock, Chi-Chi's door opened. She jumped when she saw Lin Yi. You, why are you in front of my room?" "I'm here to wake you up. It's about time," Lin Yi said. Oh. Chi-Chi held her chest and breathed heavily. She felt that this trial was full of danger. and she was afraid that someone bad would come after her. She hadn't slept well last night, and just as she was getting nervous, Linny scared her. The sky had just begun to brighten when the square in front of the inn was already filled with disciples who had come to participate in the trial. Everyone held the attitude that it was better to arrive early than late as they waited for the arrival of the heavenly secrets divination. Chapter 2789. It's time. Cultivators participating in the trial, please follow me to the 5 Evils Savage Lands teleportation point. Diviner of Heavenly Secrets didn't waste any words and went straight to the point. No one dared to tarry. They hurriedly got up and followed behind Tianji Diviner. Heading up the mountain together, Lin Yi and Skybolt Pig walked in the front, with Feng Shipian, Li Siba, Guxian, Qikuan, and Chi-Chi following behind. Looking closely, most practitioners formed their own little circle, but there were exceptions, and that was Zhang Naipeo and Demon 8. The everyday sect didn't have a good reputation, and Naipeo's strength was something that everyone was afraid of, so no one wanted to team up with him. They walked for about 10 kilometers, but they were all practitioners, and their walking speed was fast. They didn't feel tired at all, and only stopped when they passed the Sky Elixir Sex mountain range and came to a very secluded place. In front of them, there was a large building that looked like an altar. Its shape was very strange. Near the altar, several disciples of the Heavenly Elixir sect were already waiting. It seemed that they had made preparations in advance. We've already arrived at the Penna Savage Lands teleportation array. This teleportation array can teleport you to any location in the Penna Savage Land, but only one person can be teleported at a time. Therefore, even if you form a small team now, it will be difficult for you to meet each other once you arrive at the Penna Savage Land. Let me remind you that the best way is to find the spiritual herbs in the illustrated handbook as soon as possible. As he spoke, the Heavenly Secret Oracle pointed at a notice board in front of the teleportation array. It was the herb map everyone was looking for. He continued, after you find the herbs, head south, and at the end of the 5 element barrens, there's a teleportation point. Go in, and you'll be back safely. The group nodded. This 5 element barrens was indeed a mysterious place. Lin Yi thought that if he didn't have a map, it would take a lot of energy. It would probably be very tiring. No wonder so many people couldn't return from the trial every time. There's one more thing I want to remind you all. Generally speaking, everyone has to come out after half a month. If they don't come out after 20 days, then they won't be able to come out. Tianji reminded him, the Penna Savage Land is the territory of spirit beasts. It is filled with mysteries and oddities. Normally, if a cultivator stays in the Penna Savage Land for more than 20 days, the Penna Evil Chi will invade their body. If it was light, the cultivator's cultivation would be completely crippled, unable to continue cultivating. In the worst case, he would die from Chi deviation. So, when the time is up, no matter if you have gathered the medicinal herbs or not, you must come out. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. What's 5 malice chi? Naipeo asked, confused. 5 evils chi. Once it invades a cultivator's body, the damage it will cause is extremely terrifying. Tianji Diviner explained. For example, let me give you an example. If a fire attribute cultivator's body is invaded by the 5 evils chi, then the fire attribute true chi within the 5 evils chi can be absorbed by him. This is the true chi that belongs to him, so it won't affect him at all. However, the other 4 types of true chi within the 5 evils chi will remain in his body, unable to be removed. Naipeo nodded, not really bothered by it. He had the wasp absorption arts, after all, and chi of any element wouldn't be able to harm him. This 5 evils chi wouldn't be of much use to him. But Naipeo's goal in the 5 element barrens was to get a bone-cleansing pill for Pinliang. As long as he had the ingredients, he naturally wouldn't stay in the 5 element barrens for too long. But Linny paused. He might have a 5-element body, but he was still a practitioner of all 5 elements. He didn't know if there would be any problems with the 5 elements aura, right? All right, since there are no more questions, please enter the portal and enter the 5-element barons. Tianji Diviner said to the group. From the beginning to the end, the participants entered the portal one by one and stood in the middle of the altar-like building before disappearing. Evidently, they had entered the 5-element barons. Lin Yi had always held a reverent attitude towards things like ancient portals and portals. These were all phenomena that couldn't be explained by science. When it was Lin Yi's turn, Lin Yi strode into the portal, and the nearby disciples activated something. And Lin Yi's body disappeared. Lin Yi felt his vision darken, as if he had entered a long tunnel. His vision brightened up, and he found himself standing in an unfamiliar place. The altar beneath his feet had turned into a mountain, and the scenery in front of him had changed as well. Rolling green mountains, steep cliffs, beautiful blue skies, and white clouds. It was like a new world, as if he had returned to the ancient times. Skybolt Pig, what is this place? How far is the portal? Lin Yi asked the pig. Skybolt Pig had a strong sense of direction and could usually estimate the distance if it wasn't too far away. Oink. Skybolt Pig shook his head, lost. He couldn't sense where they had come from anymore. Oh. While Lin Yi was talking to Skybolt Pig, a roar of an unknown spirit beast came from not far away. Lin Yi was startled, and he remembered that there were many spirit beasts in the 5 Evils savage land, and many of them were heaven-ranked spirit beasts. Lin Yi quickly looked around vigilantly, and he found a hiding place on the cliff behind him. Although it wasn't a long-term plan, it could be a temporary shelter. Thinking of this, Lin Yi carried Skybolt Pig and jumped up to the hiding place on the cliff. Sure enough, not long after, a spirit beast that looked like a tiger but had horns on its head rushed over. Although this spirit beast wasn't weak, it obviously didn't have high intelligence. It wasn't as smart as the spirit beasts that lived alone in the human domain. Perhaps it sensed the appearance of Lin Yi, a human cultivator, but when Lin Yi hid, it circled around the place where Lin Yi was, but after finding nothing, it ran away and didn't look around. This earth-ranked spirit beast was really stupid. Lin Yi shook his head, but he couldn't guarantee that all the spirit beasts here were as stupid as this spirit beast. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't come down from the cliff for the time being, and decided to observe the situation first before thinking of a countermeasure. Chapter 2790. All disciples participating in the Ice Heaven Pill Sex test, please take note. The registration period has ended, and we will now begin the registration process. All disciples of the inn, please gather at the plaza in front of the inn in 10 minutes to accept the registration from the Sky Elixir sect and pay the deposit. We will not wait after the deadline. The voice was full of energy, showing off the strength of the person who was speaking. This person was actually a Sky-class late-phase peak. It seemed like the Sky Elixir sect wasn't weak at all. Lin Yi remembered that Aunt Qing, a Sky-class master, had come for the Ice Palace test, but she was only Sky-class mid-phase, and their sect master was only Sky-class late-phase peak. The Sky Elixir sect, on the other hand, was a Sky-class late-phase peak. They really couldn't be underestimated. Although the Sky Elixir sect had given them a time limit of 10 minutes, none of the disciples dared to be slow. In less than 3 minutes, almost all the disciples came out of the inn and came to the plaza. Lin Yi came downstairs as well, with Qikun, Feng Shuiyan, Li Siba, Guxian, and Chi-Chi. They found a clean spot and sat cross-legged on the ground. The other disciples followed Lin Yi's example and found a place to sit. The Sky Elixir sect's disciple, on the other hand, was standing expressionlessly on a platform in the plaza. He didn't hide his strength at all. Sky-class late-phase peak on full display. Beside him was a young man in a gray robe, around 20 years of age. Lin Yi's heart was filled with shock with just one look. It was Kong Ming Ming. This guy was representing the Sky Elixir sect to welcome the disciples. Lin Yi's heart tightened. This guy wouldn't try to get revenge after seeing him. Would he? Kong Ming Ming seemed to be looking for something as well, and when he saw Lin Yi, a strange light flashed in his eyes. The Sky Elixir School's trial was a huge event in the ancient times. Even if Kong Xiaoming was the young master of the Sky Elixir School, he wouldn't be able to target a single practitioner, let alone an elder of the school. If this matter were to be exposed, then the reputation of the Sky Elixir School would be tarnished. Who would dare participate in the Sky Elixir School's trial in the future? He couldn't do anything to Lin Yi in the open, but he could do things in the dark. Zhang Naipeo of the an everyday sect, was one of the pawns Xiaoming was using. Xiaoming had found out about the grudge between Zhang Naipeo and Lin Yi, and so, with his help, Zhang Naipeo had gotten his hands on a map. As well, Kong Ming Ming wouldn't need to do anything himself, and he'd get Naipeo to take care of Lin Yi. As long as Lin Yi was dead, then everything would be solved. Soon, all the disciples had arrived, sitting cross-legged as they waited for the Sky Elixir sect's elder to speak. Seeing that everyone had arrived, the person from the Heavenly Elixir sect nodded indifferently and said, "Since everyone is here, let's begin. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Tianji Diviner, the elder in charge of this test. And this is Elder Kong Ming Ming, the one who will assist me in completing the test." Although the man who spoke was only an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect, and some of the people who came for the trial were core disciples of various sects, this elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect was obviously not an ordinary elder. This could be seen from his name. The head of the Sky Elixir sect was called Tianji Xing, and this elder was called Tianji Diviner. Even if he wasn't Tianji Xing's blood brother, he was still Tianji Xing's cousin, and no one dared to underestimate him. Moreover, the most important thing was that this Tianji's strength seemed to be real and not the superficial strength of an alchemist. This was a real martial arts cultivator. Most of you here come from ancient houses and sects, and I'm sure you know the rules of the Sky Elixir sect very well. I believe that even the lone practitioners have asked around about the rules of the Sky Elixir sect. At this point, the heavenly secret divination paused for a moment. His gaze swept across the disciples present before he continued. However, there are some changes to the rules of the trial this time around. First of all, our previous trial rules only allowed cultivators above the mystic class and below the earth class to participate. But this time, we have relaxed the rules and allowed all cultivators above the mystic class to participate. But in comparison, the trial deposit amount has been increased. It was 100 million before, but this time it will be 200 million. The words of Tianji made all the cultivators who were participating in the trial look at each other in dismay. Why did the price of this trial increase? And it was not a small increase from 100 million to 200 million. This was really a scam. But thinking about it, this time the rules of the Sky Elixir sect had changed and relaxed the requirements, which was why there were so many more people than in the past. Was it to make money? Thinking about the increased deposit, everyone thought it was very possible. Seeing the expressions of the cultivators below, Tianji Tian was very satisfied. This year's Heavenly Elixir trial was different from the previous ones. If something went wrong, the Heavenly Elixir sect was afraid that the other ancient sects would see through it and come looking for trouble with them. Therefore, they had deliberately increased the trial deposit amount to mislead others into thinking that the Heavenly Elixir sect had relaxed the conditions for participants this time because they were short of money. Otherwise, if a large number of Earth class or even Heaven class disciples died, it would be easy to make people suspicious. Now, even if someone was suspicious, they could only think that the Sky Elixir sect's trial was too dangerous because the change in the requirements of the participants' strength had been explained as a matter of making money. Well, Since there is no doubt, then I'll talk about the rules of the trial. This trial will last for half a month, with 5 days in total. The location of the trial is the Five Evils wilderness behind the mountain of the Sky Elixir sect. During the trial, you need to collect a medicinal herb in the Five Evils wilderness. As long as you get the herb, you can walk out of the Five Evils wilderness and complete the trial. Of course, if you don't collect it, you can quit, but it will be regarded as an automatic forfeit, and the deposit cannot be refunded. Tianji Diviner continued. What Tianji Diviner said was no different from the previous trial, so no one had any special expression. Only Lin. He was listening carefully. He didn't know much about it before. Chapter 2791. Zhong Pingliang? Since you're here, I don't even need to look for you. Qibing was overjoyed when he saw Zhong Pingliang. He jumped down from the car and pulled on Pingliang's door. Get out of the car. Ha! You little bastard, still trying to act tough. Pingliang was furious. He had to admit that Linny was acting tough in front of him, but Qibing still dared to do this to him. He didn't even need Qibing to provoke him. He opened the car door and grabbed Qibing's collar. I see that you want to break your legs, don't you? Break my legs? I'll let you have a taste of that too. Qibing's fist flew towards Pingliang's face, and with a loud bang, Pingliang's nose started to bleed. This scene made Qibing even more excited. Heh, an Earth class was indeed powerful. He couldn't do anything to Pingliang before, but now he was only an Earth class early phase, and he could draw blood with one punch. The difference in strength wasn't a joke. I'm bleeding? Pingliang paled as he touched his face. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the fresh blood on his hand. Wasn't he supposed to be able to defend against all attacks from anyone below Sky class? Why couldn't he block Qibing's punch? Plus, the pain on his face wasn't fake. It was deep, and he almost cried from the pain. Bang! Zhao Qibing didn't care about him and slapped him again. Zhao Qibing had been humiliated by Zhong Pingliang before, and now that he had the chance to take revenge, he wouldn't let it go easily. Although he couldn't kill Zhong Pingliang, he could at least cripple him. Ouch! Pingliang screamed again. It hurts! It hurts! Bang! Ah, I'm dying of pain. Bang! Stop! Bang! You're a Sky class? You've reached Sky class? Bang! Ah, my leg, it's broken. Bang! Ah, I'm going to faint. Zhao Qibing finally vented his anger after beating Pingliang up. He drove away in high spirits, humming a little tune. Medicine cut, make a mess, electric cannon, kick. Xiaofu wasn't a practitioner, so he could only stand there like an idiot. He couldn't help Pingliang at all. And when Qibing left, he quickly helped Pingliang up and asked weakly, Liang bro, are you okay? Don't die. F***CK. Are you cursing me? Even Lin, he couldn't kill me. How could Zhao Qibing kill me? Pingliang was furious. Then, didn't you faint just now? Gao Xiaofu said carefully. If I didn't faint, would he have stopped? He's killing me. Pingliang limped up from the ground. His leg wasn't broken, but his bones were fractured. Qibing knew his limits and didn't want to get carried away. I see. Xiaofu looked at the pitiful Pingliang. Liang bro, why isn't your bra working again? Who knows? It's selective and intermittent. It didn't work in front of Lin E. It worked in front of Right Coiling Tiger. And now it's working again. Pingliang was starting to get suspicious. He could believe that Lin E had leveled up to Sky class, but was it even possible that Zhao Qibing had leveled up to Sky class? Did he eat a Qi gathering pill? Then what should we do now? Xiaofu asked carefully. Go back to the an everyday sect. Immediately. I don't want to stay here a minute longer, Pingliang ordered as he climbed into the car. Yes. Gao Xiaofu hurriedly nodded, got into the car, started it, and sped away. Zhao Qibing was in a good mood after beating up Pingliang. He wanted to race a few laps on the streets. One had to know that his racing skills were quite good, and most professional racers weren't his match. He hadn't raced since he suffered a loss in the car race, but before Qibing could find a place to race, his phone rang. Grandpa? Zhao Qibing was surprised. The number was from his grandpa's study, and Grandpa usually wouldn't call the children of House Zhao on his own accord. It must be something important. Qibing, where are you? Old Zhao's voice came from the other side of the phone. I'm on the streets. Grandpa, what's up? Zhao Qibing asked carefully. I've talked to old you from the hidden house you. Go to him and pick a technique, old Zhao ordered. But remember to be polite when you're there. Don't let people look down on you. Don't worry, Grandpa. I know what I'm doing. Zhao Qibing was overjoyed. He didn't think he'd get news so soon. He thought he'd have to wait for a while. One couldn't blame him for being happy. As far as he was concerned, martial arts were very important to a practitioner. The reason why Lin Yi was able to defeat enemies above his level when he was only an Earth-class mid-phase peak was because of his martial arts. Otherwise, why didn't Lin Yi have such an obvious advantage when he was at Golden and Mystic class? Although he could still fight above his level, it would only be more obvious after practicing the techniques. So, Zhao Qibing wanted to pick a strong technique for himself. Majestic Fist, on the other hand, didn't meet his requirements. It was just a normal technique, nothing special. Elderby didn't have a choice back then, but now that he had a choice, he naturally hoped that Zhao Qibing could learn a stronger technique. And go. Old Zhao nodded. He called old you from the hidden house you, and it took quite a bit of effort. After all, he'd stolen old you's chi-gathering pill, causing Yu Shaochen to lose his chance to ascend to Sky class. But the two houses were still in-laws, and on a hidden level, they were still connected. Elder Yu wasn't too happy that he didn't make Yu Xiaojin son the heir of the house, but he could understand why Elder Zhao was doing this. It was just like in ancient times. Why didn't the sons of foreign princesses have the right to be emperors? It was the same reason. Was Yu Xiaojin's son a part of House Yu or House Xiao? If he were to lean towards House Yu in the future, wouldn't House Xiao be a branch of House Yu? How much courage did one need to make such a decision? Chapter 2792. When Qibing drove to the Hidden House Yu's villa that night, the Hidden House Yu gave him some face, and Xiaochen personally came out to greet this cheap nephew of his. At the banquet, Qibing saw the crippled Yushan. Compared to Qibing's happiness, Yushan was a little pitiful. Both of them were participants in the power struggle, but Qibing was the winner, and Yushan was the loser. The future of House Yu belonged to Yubing, and Yushan was just a stepping stone for Yubing. The reason he could come to this banquet was because there were too few direct descendants of House Yu. Only Yushan and Yuning were at home, and the others were the descendants and disciples of the elders. They weren't direct descendants of House Yu, so they couldn't attend this banquet. Of course, Elder Yu didn't attend this banquet. He didn't need to give face to a junior like Qibing. Yu Xiaochen's presence was enough to give face to the hidden house Zhao, but when Zhao Qibing saw Yuning, he was shocked. In his entire life, he had never seen such a beautiful and refined woman. She was simply a fairy from a fairy tale world who did not eat the food of mortals. Although Tang Yun was also very beautiful, and Zhao Qibing had his eyes on her before, he only wanted to play with her. For an ordinary girl like Tang Yun, who had no background, Zhao Qibing didn't put her in his eyes at all. But Yu Ning was different. She was the little princess of the hidden house Yu. Qibing naturally knew what Qikuan was thinking, and he knew the relationship between Qikuan and Lin Yi. It would be best if Qikuan died in this Sky Elixir test, but what if he didn't? After all, Lin Yi was the biggest variable. Who knew what would happen with him in the Sky Elixir test? So Qibing had to find allies for himself. His father had gotten his position because of Yu Xiaojin, and Qibing had to follow his father's footsteps. He didn't have much power himself, so if he had the support of the hidden house Yu, it would be the same as hugging onto a thick thigh. Moreover, the most important point was that Yu Ning was too beautiful. Her face was like water, without a trace of makeup. She was gentle and quiet. The only ornament on her soft hair was a hair clip, although the hair clip was a bit rustic, like the kind of pure, handmade products worn by primitive tribes. When it was worn on Yuning's hair, it didn't look rustic at all. Instead, it had a touch of spirituality. Zhao Qibing had an impulse to take her as his own. Too beautiful, too beautiful, too arousing. Zhao Qibing took a deep breath. In order to not let his perverted look ruin the image of the hidden Yu family, he smiled and looked at Yuning. This must be Cousin Yuning. I've heard a lot about you. My auntie always said that Ning Sis is the most beautiful woman in the world. It seems like she was wrong. Question mark. Yuning slightly frowned. How could there be such a person? How could he be so rude? Xiaoqin's face darkened as well. What was this Zhao Qibing? Did he know how to talk? However, Zhao Qibing continued, the most beautiful woman in the world is an insult to Lil Sisning. Lil Sisning is the most invincible girl in the universe. Xiaoqin let out a breath of relief as a smile appeared on his face once more. This Zhao Qibing wasn't bad at all. His words were a little mushy, but he was good at flattery. Saying that his daughter was pretty made Xiaoqin quite happy. The most invincible girl in the universe? Yuning didn't look happy at all. She only said faintly, Qibing bro, you've watched too many dramas, haven't you? You even used the lines? That's... Qibing's expression froze. He had indeed seen this in a TV series, a very old one. It was called The Heroine Conquers the Heaven's Gate. There was a line like this in the universe, but he thought that no one had seen it before. He thought that it was his original line to make the beauty smile. But who would have thought that Yuning had seen it before? Let's eat. Haha, Yuning didn't want to embarrass Qibing too much. She just wanted him to stop showing off. Oh. Qibing smiled awkwardly as he raised his chopsticks. Yushan looked at everything coldly. He didn't say anything, but his eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness. Why? Even if his father wasn't the head of the house, it didn't affect his status as a direct descendant of House Yu. Why could the son of the head of the house get such good treatment? But he, who wasn't the head of the house, couldn't? They were both Grandpa's grandsons. Why? Why? He wasn't willing to accept it, especially after he became a cripple. Yu Shan's heart had become infinitely twisted. He hated Yu Bing, hated Yu Xiaoqin, and even hated Yu Ning. Seeing the hatred in his son's eyes, Xiaoqin's second brother, Yu Xiaozhong, sighed deeply. He was angry at himself for not fighting for it. If he were stronger, would his son end up like this? But the father and son didn't think about it. If Yu Shan didn't go to the Ice Palace test and separate from Yu Bing and go against Lin Yi, would he end up like this? There were many practitioners who were bullied by Zhang Naipeo and Feng Nitian in the test, but if they didn't fight back, they could still protect themselves. Why did Yu Shan have to be crippled? But angry people usually didn't think about these things. That was the logic of petty people blaming others. Qibing seemed to like Yuning. Yu Shan calculated in his heart. Could this be a condition he could use? If it worked, he'd be able to incite the hatred between Qibing and the hidden House Yu. It wouldn't do Yu Shan any good, but the crippled Yu Shan had long since given up on being the young head of the house. He couldn't be the young head of the house anymore, and so all he wanted was revenge, to make Yu Xiaoqin suffer. Because of Yu Ning's coldness, Qibing didn't say anything inappropriate. After all, he was here for the skills. If Yu Xiaoqin really hated him, then it wouldn't be worth it. So, Qibing planned to go back and let his grandpa think of something. After dinner, Yu Xiaoqin called Qibing to a private room and gave him 2 manuals. I've been looking around for a while, and the only thing our hidden house Yu has are these 2 gold-type manuals. You can have them. Ah, only 2. Qibing was a little disappointed. He thought that there would be a bunch of skills for him to choose from. Chapter 2793. Oh, there's no need for that. We'll talk about our own things. Pao is still your disciple, and I've just taken over his body, so I'm not strong enough yet. I need to train as much as I can, and I don't have time to teach Pao. And the others. Help me teach them martial arts. Pin Liang said, from now on, just call me Liang bro. Pao. You're my loyal follower. And the next leader of this everyday sect will be you. That's... Naipeo didn't know what to say. He was very emotional. But more than anything, he was happy. Liang bro was finally getting stronger. Before, Naipeo was still respectful to Pin Liang, but he was getting stronger and stronger. He didn't want Pin Liang to stay mediocre, but there was nothing he could do about it. It seemed like Liang bro really was a boss material, no matter where he went. Even in the everyday sect, he was the boss. Naipeo, I had high hopes for you too, and now that you have your master, the sect's future depends on you? Pure Yang said. Yes. Naipeo was very excited. Xiaofu was happy as well. Liang bro was getting stronger. Didn't that mean he was going to get stronger as well? His unwelcome treatment here would soon turn into compliments, and he'd be Pin Liang's follower. He'd be a big shot in the future. And right, where's Guangyou? Pin Liang asked. Master, Guangyou is in isolation right now. You think, if it was pure Yang himself, he wouldn't dare disturb Guangyou right now, but Guanglong was different. Let's go. Get him out. I have something to discuss with him. Pin Liang said faintly. Okay, Master, please. Pure Yang Empyrean quickly made a gesture and said, Pow, Xiaofu, you guys follow me. I'm still used to having you guys be my followers. Pin Liang said with a wave of his hand. Yes, Liang bro. Naipeo and Xiaofu were very happy Liang bro was getting stronger, but he was still the same Liang bro from before, still treating them like his followers. Empyrean Pure Yang couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed like his master's personality had changed. However, this was a good thing. In the past, his master always had a straight face and was very serious, which made him afraid. Now, his master was much more easygoing. The few of them came to the place where Master Guangyou was in seclusion. Pure Yang Empyrean went to call Master Guangyou. With Zhong Pingliang backing him, he wasn't afraid of anything. Ancestral Master Wild Bull was in seclusion. Although he had advanced to the peak of the heaven realm in the past few years, he hadn't cultivated to the Great Circle. Although he was only a fine line away from the Great Circle, he still hadn't reached it. Therefore, he spent most of his time in seclusion. Hearing Empyrean Pure Yang's summons, Ancestral Master Guangyou frowned. He had once said not to summon Empyrean Pure Yang unless it was a matter of life or death for the sect. But now, the sect hadn't sent out any warning signals. They shouldn't have encountered any danger. Why would Empyrean Pure Yang want him? Pure Yang, what's the matter? Although Ancestral Master Guangyou was angry, Empyrean Pure Yang was still the sect master of the everyday sect. He wouldn't be unreasonable, so he asked patiently, Ancestral Master Guangyou, my master is back. Empyrean Pure Yang said quickly, What did you say? Your master is back? Are you crazy? How many years has it been since your master was buried? Ancestral Master Guangyou was stunned. Are you still dreaming in the middle of the night? No. Ancestral Master Guangyou, my master's primordial spirit has taken over my body. He really is back. Empyrean Pure Yang explained quickly. What? He took over your body? Ancestral Master Guangyou stood up suddenly and walked out quickly. He saw Zhong Pingliang smiling at him, not far away, but for some reason, this smile gave him a familiar feeling. Although Ancestral Master Guangyou was very cold and irritable, when facing his two junior brothers, he would often show a rare smile. It was very similar to the smile Zhong Pingliang was showing now. Guangyou, it's been more than 10 years. You brat, you almost killed me. Zhong Pingliang walked towards Ancestral Master Guangyou. Are you really my senior brother? Ancestral Master Guangyou also knew about the primordial spirit, but he was a little uncertain. Let's go inside and talk in detail. Zhong Pingliang pointed to the place where ancestral Master Kuangyo was in seclusion. Okay, Pure Yang, wait at the door first. He and I will go in and check it out. Ancestral Master Kuangyo hadn't confirmed Zhong Pingliang's identity yet, so he was still a little skeptical. The two of them walked into the inner room of seclusion. Zhong Pingliang began to narrate some of the sect's secret history, some things that only the three of them knew now. Ancestral Master Kuangyo was dead, and Ancestral Master Kuangyo was forcibly taken away by the ruthless person who destroyed the sect. Only Ancestral Master Kuangyo was left. Logically speaking, no one in the sect should know about these things, but Zhong Pingliang was very familiar with them. Moreover, Ancestral Master Kuangyo asked Ancestral Master Kuangyo some questions, and Zhong Pingliang answered them fluently, knowing everything about the past like the back of his hand. Only then did Ancestral Master Kuangyo believe his identity. You really are my senior brother. That's great. You're finally back. Haha, Kuangyo, although I'm your senior brother, I only have a body of memories now, but no strength. I need to cultivate again. Zhong Pingliang smiled and couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. That's okay. There are many treasures in the sect. Senior brother, you can take them as you please. Recover your strength as soon as possible, and we brothers will return to Heavenly Island together, step into the Heavenly Tao, and find second senior brother as soon as possible. Ancestral Master Kuangyo said. Find him. Zhong Pingliang smiled bitterly, still fearful. That person killed me with one punch back then. How strong was he? How are we going to find second senior brother? If he's done with his business, he'll come back on his own. And if we go looking for him, we'll either be forced to stay or killed. Zhong Pingliang had inherited Ancestral Master Kuangyo's memories, and he was still very afraid of what happened back then. This was a strength that he couldn't surpass, and it was like a mountain that he could only look up to, unable to have any thoughts of revenge. This didn't seem to be targeting Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi was strong, but there was still hope for him to surpass him. He had placed his hopes on Zhang Naipeo, feeling that the gap between Naipeo and Lin Yi wasn't that big, and revenge was still a possibility. Now that he had become the founder of the Mad Dragon Patriarch, he could seek revenge on Lin Yi himself in the future. However, he didn't even have the guts to think about seeking revenge on those two people from back then. Chapter 2794. Even Zhao Qiqun was very surprised. He didn't understand why Lin Yi would say that. In fact, even if Lin Yi wanted to hide it, he wouldn't be able to hide it for long. Since Zhang Naipeo was coming this time, Lin Yi's identity would definitely be exposed, and Feng Shipian would know about it. It was better to say it now. It would be more honest. Zhao Qiqun is actually Feng Miqian's follower. Let him tell you about the situation, Lin Yi said. Zhao Qiqun nodded and told Feng Shipian about the Ice Palace trial. After Feng Shishuan heard this, he smiled bitterly and nodded his head. I guessed it right. That cousin of mine is young and promising. At that time, he was called the number 1 person under the earth rank. 8 out of 7 people were unconvinced. Young hero Lin actually didn't do anything wrong. It's good that you understand. Lin Yi nodded and said, Feng Nitian stole things in the trial, and I have someone I want to save. I can't compromise with him, so we have to fight to the death. Haha, it's okay. Young hero Lin, you don't need to explain. I understand. If I had your martial arts, I would fight back if someone bullied me, Feng Shipian said. But young hero Lin is really strong. You were only mystic late phase, but you could injure my cousin. Of course, boss is strong. Zhao Qiqun wanted to say more, but Lin Yi interrupted him. Let's not talk about this. Since Brother Feng doesn't blame me, that's good. Lin Yi didn't want Zhao Qiqun to talk about meaningless things, and he could see that the relationship between Feng Shipian and Feng Nitian wasn't that good. It was just that Feng Shipian was a kind person, right? Guxian, you mentioned Zhang Naipeo before. What's going on? Zhang Naipeo. Gu Xian didn't hide it. I heard that on the way here. Zhang Naipeo had a conflict with two disciples from Holy Fist Palace. One of them was crippled on the spot. So only one came. Zhang Naipeo did it. Lin frowned and was a little surprised. Is the Holy Fist Palace practicing external mental cultivation methods? Lin remembered that House Pai had some connection with the Holy Fist Palace. Both of them practiced external arts. And wasn't Zhang Naipeo's ultimate skill the wasp absorption art? He could absorb the chi of an inner sect cultivator, but what could he absorb from an outer sect cultivator? That shouldn't be the case. If Naipeo had gotten into a fight with a spiritual practitioner, that person would have been crippled on the spot. But now, could it be that Naipeo had trained in some other mystical arts? Plus, Naipeo was crippled by him, and he recovered after he went back? Lin would have believed it if he'd recovered, since the ancient sects had all sorts of elixirs. But to say that Naipeo could even absorb physical practitioners was bullshit. Could it be that Naipeo had trained in some powerful technique? Thinking about it, it made sense. After all, Zhang Naipeo was an Earth class now, and it was normal for him to train in martial arts. Yes, it's external mental cultivation methods. Gu Xian lowered his voice, let me tell you, according to reliable information. Zhang Naipeo just stood there and didn't move. The master of the Holy Fist Palace only punched him once, and then he fell to the ground and became a cripple. What? How did he do it? Lin was stunned. Could it be that Zhang Naipeo could also use the wasp absorption art as a physical practitioner? Otherwise, why would the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace be crippled when he didn't move? This was a little unscientific. I don't know about this. Although Gu Xian, make a living by selling information, there are some top secret information that I can't get. Gu Xian shook his head. You sell information? Lin was stunned. That's right. I'm just a rogue cultivator. I don't have any backing, nor do I have any cultivation resources. In order to exchange for some cultivation resources, I can only rely on selling information to survive. Of course, I have my own ways and connections. Gu Xian said, in the cultivation world, people call me demi-immortal Gu to describe me as a fortune teller. In fact, I have more information channels. Lin nodded. A rogue cultivator who could cultivate to the level of Gu Xian was not an ordinary rogue cultivator. He had his own set of survival rules. Otherwise, it would be difficult to survive in the cultivation world where the strong preyed on the weak. Without ability, it would be difficult to move forward. Lin was about to inquire more, but he didn't expect a commotion outside the restaurant. Then a young man pushed the door and entered, but he did not continue to enter the restaurant. Instead, he held the door and made a gesture of invitation. Then, another person entered the restaurant. What Lin didn't expect was that this person was Zhang Naipeo. Naipeo walked in arrogantly, and the man who opened the door said respectfully, "Gunslinger, please take a seat." Behind Naipeo was another man, respectful as always. These two were disciples of the Everyday and Everyday sect, Naipeo's followers. Naipeo had been injured last time at the Ice Palace, and so, for his safety this time, the Everyday and Everyday sect sent two more followers over. These two were stronger than Naipeo, both Sky, class mid-phase. In actuality, these two were both Naipeo's seniors, and even if Naipeo was a disciple of the pure Yang Sky Lord, there was no need for him to be this respectful. But now, Naipeo had become a follower of the Everyday, an Everyday sect, a follower of the Mad Dragon Master. The seniority didn't change, but which disciple under him would dare treat Naipeo as a junior? Calling Naipeo Gunslinger was already too much. And if it weren't for the fact that Naipeo was a disciple of the pure Yang Sky Lord, they would have called him Master Naipeo or Master Mad Pao. In fact, the Sky Elixir sect's test this time was very dangerous. The Everyday and Everyday sect, as one of the initiators of the Sky-class island plan, had always been suppressed by the Five Elements sect. But Naipeo was a key person, and even if the Five Elements sect didn't like an everyday sect, they wouldn't joke around with his life. Naipeo had two goals for coming here. One was to get a bone-cleansing pill for Pin Liang after winning the test, and two was to teach Lin Yi a lesson. Pin Liang had lost to Lin Yi time and time again, and now that he was one of the elders of the Sky Elixir sect, he was desperate for revenge. But his strength was limited, and he could only send Naipeo for revenge. Plus, when Naipeo fought with Lin Yi, it would stimulate his training intent, allowing him to step into a higher level. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.